vehicle. So I think we're going to move now, Brian, over there to that point, because over there onto the right side of the screen, I believe there is a statement that's being given. So we're going to head over to that area right now.
All right.
Back to you guys.
Luis, we'll check back in with you once we're able to at that time. Let's go ahead and give an update again of the information that we do know. Again, we are following some breaking news out of East High School at this time. Police say that 2 adults have been taken to an area hospital, likely with non-life-threatening injuries. That is per Denver police. They say that the suspect no longer believed to be there on scene. Our own Courtney Yu is reporting that the suspect actually left the scene, and we're not positive if police or know their whereabouts at this time.
Some residents in the area are getting calls to essentially stay inside at this point in time. Again, they're doing a controlled release. Denver Public Schools for East High School is doing a controlled release. Once Denver Police does allow that, parents can pick up their children at 17th and Esplanade. Students who drove will be escorted to their cars in the parking lot and then can leave. Students who ride the bus will be held until their bus arrives. We know that they're in their 3rd period right now. They're essentially just staying there until they are released.
Yeah, we do have no new information as far as the investigation goes. Our Brianna Fernandez is standing by outside of Denver Health. She does report that she does see a vehicle from DPS that is at the hospital at this time. Again, we're not exactly sure what that means, but once we get some kind of confirmation, we'll be sure to let you know. At this time, we're continuing to follow along with Denver Police Twitter, as well as our crews there at the scene for the latest information. DPS also tweeting the fact that they do, as Corey mentioned, plan on doing a controlled release of the students. I want to go over that information one more time because I know a lot of parents are wondering about this. Denver Police say that, or Denver Public Schools, says that once Denver Police allows them to, parents can pick up the children at 17th and Esplanade. If your student drove to school, they will be escorted to their car in the school parking lot, and they will be allowed to leave. Students who ride the bus, we're told, will be held at the school until their bus arrives. As far as where students are right now, they're on campus. We are told they're being held within their 3rd period classroom until further notice.
We did just get confirmation that the 2 adults that were shot are staff members there at East High School. This is a shot of, it looks like a gurney going inside of East High School right now from the ambulance that was stationed right outside of the front doors there. We've been showing you kind of various shots of the front of the school. This is from Sky 9. You can see a lot of crime scene tape that's still up. 2 ambulances stationed right outside the circle there, and a lot of first responder vehicles staged outside. Also from the ground shot there, you could see that they were starting to gather to hopefully give us some more information. Again, the public information officer was called on scene to pass along some information, and they're starting to stage for that right now. We don't have a time for when we might get some more information. Again, we have several crews that are there. We were checking in with Luis De Leon, Courtney Yoon, and again, we know that Brianna Fernandez is at the Denver Health right now, working to get some more information. We do know that Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is also there on scene. You can see they're staging there in the lower part. There's the mayor right there, probably getting briefed. They're from John White as well, who's giving him some information.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, once we get the update, I also see it looks like Chief Ron Thomas out there as well, maybe getting an update as well. Looks like maybe that's what he's doing at this time. I saw a lot of the media was gathered right there, so we do know that maybe they're getting ready to release some new information about this investigation. Of course, a large police presence there. I don't know if we have Sky 9 still, but you can tell from the shot above the school just how big this is. As you heard Corey mentioning, they were starting to put crime scene tape up there. We actually have gotten word from people who live in the area that they're blocking off streets all the way over by City Park, even at 17th and Fillmore, where they are shutting down as part of their investigation. We also know that people who live in the area are now receiving shelter in place calls from the police department as well. So while the investigation is centered on East High School, they are also blocking off surrounding areas while they continue their work.
Again, information continues to come in, and just being transparent. Once we're getting information, we're passing it off to you. There's not a lot of new information that's coming into us right now. Again, we do know that the suspect left the scene, and it sounds like residents in the area are getting calls to stay inside. We don't know any information about that suspect. We have recently learned that the 2 adults that were shot and transported to the hospital with likely non-life-threatening injuries were staff members there at East High School.
Yeah, again, this is obviously something that's really traumatizing specifically for this community, as it is across Colorado, as today we remember the 2 years since the shooting at King Soopers in Boulder, but especially traumatic for East High School as they went through something very similar just several weeks ago when one of their own students was shot and killed outside of the high school. That was Luis Garcia, a member of the soccer team, a friend to many there. Absolutely beloved. Not only that, after that shooting, the students, they worked together. They did a walkout of East High School to the Capitol, demanding action be taken to restrict gun violence.
Yeah, and that march was very large. We saw that happening that morning. We were surprised by how many students gathered in that and walked to the Capitol, again demanding change. We interviewed some of the students at East High School that were part of that march and rally. And what was sad to hear is that they were so knowledgeable about gun reform and gun rights and what they would like to see as students of the high school there. So again, this is really hard for East High School. I mean, this incident with Luis Garcia just happened a few weeks ago. Again, we were talking about how today marks the 2-year anniversary of the Boulder King Soopers shooting. So this is becoming all too common for so many in our community.
And once we can talk to one of our reporters again there at the scene, we will be able to check in to see exactly what it's like out there. Again, we talked to our Luis De Leon and Courtney Yoon, and both of them described the scene as calm. Of course, you don't see any students outside right now. We're told they're being held in their third period classrooms. But our Courtney Yoon described it as eerily calm, given, again, that shooting that just happened several weeks before there. She said it was not a good feeling to be out there. Everybody else out there was kind of feeling the exact same thing. It looked like maybe we had also seen some parents arrive there on scene trying to pick up their students. Of course, police right now are telling everybody to stay away from the area, to let them do their work. Understandably, we know as a parent that's not the easiest thing to follow. Yeah,
that can be hard. Again, they are doing a controlled release of students. Once Denver police allows that to happen, they have a plan of action in terms of getting the students to a meeting center. Of course, any students that drove, they're going to escort them there. We did see them take in a gurney a few minutes ago into the front doors from one of those ambulances there. We haven't seen that gurney come out. We're going to check back in with Luis De Leon right now. He is on scene. Luis?
Yeah, apologies, Jordan and Corey, for abruptly ending our last report there. We wanted to get over here because we began to see an assembly of members of the media to prepare for a press conference. We are now waiting for a update from local leaders here on this investigation. You can see the perimeter just behind us. This is what the scene looks like right now here outside of East High School as we await for a press conference right now. We were told that this would be happening sometime soon. We are still not sure when, but we wanted to be able to get over here and assemble in the event that did occur right away. The scene out here still relatively calm. Some of the students that I have been seeing sort of gathered in the lawn area around here, they have since left the area from what I understand, but I did happen to speak to a gentleman who said he is a volunteer here at Denver East High School. He mentors with students, specifically a junior in high school. He was waiting to hear back from that student. You know, obviously he was very shaken up, tears in his eyes, did not feel comfortable going on camera talking with me, but again, just kind of expressing the almost both empathy and frustration for the situation right now after what East High School just went through several weeks ago, guys.
And Luis, we were taking a shot earlier. I don't believe it was from your camera, maybe it was Courtney's, but it looked like the Denver Police Department Chief Ron Thomas was out there and he was kind of briefing the mayor on what he knew at that point in time.
Yeah, we were not able to see that. I do believe that was from another crew that was a bit closer to the scene. But yes, like I said, we are still waiting on that update. So one could assume then that they are all briefing each other right now before they come to give out the information that they are able to.
And Luis, we've been talking about this during our coverage of what is happening there at East High School, but this has got to be something that's really traumatic, not just because, of course, this is a scary situation in and of itself, but given the fact of what East High School just went through several weeks ago.
I also spoke to another parent to that end who had said that they had 2 daughters graduate from East High School, and you know, they told me that they were worried about a situation like this happening, and so you know, just a lot of I suppose, like more calm frustration on this day being expressed from parents. I've talked to other parents in the past few weeks, one of which that actually had their child ending up switching schools from East High School due to the violence. They never wanted to go on camera either and did not feel comfortable doing such a thing. But, you know, just a lot of movement and emotions coming out from a lot of parents around here right now.
Yeah, it's hard right now for them to even talk about it, wrap their minds around the fact that the incident with Luis Garcia happened just a few weeks ago, and then again this today. And Luis, it sounds like more and more parents are showing up there this morning.
Right, but we do know that that reunification area will be at 17th, I believe, in Esplanade, and so hopefully the police and as well as us will be able to communicate that more to parents. I believe more parents have come and gone from the scene from what I've been able to observe, seemingly because they're getting that information of where to go.
And Luis, we just learned information that it looks like paramedics have brought somebody out of the school and put them in an ambulance. We're not going to be showing that just to our viewers. We're going to respect exactly what you're seeing, but we just wanted to let you know of that update. Luis, I'm curious, as you talk to people out there, the volunteer, the parents, anybody else, what are they wondering right now? What questions do they have regarding this?
First, it seems obviously just about the situation itself and what actually is going on inside of the school. That's the same question from some of the students that seemingly were either already outside of the building when this started. But more so, there seems to be almost like a dumbfounded look on their face for how this could happen again. We've seen that look on parents before from past events that cause such distress, obviously, and so that seemingly is that question on their minds right now. We've talked to youth violence prevention organizations several times over the last few months related to incidents like the one that we're seeing today, and so that's usually the question that's coming from them, is why and how can this happen yet again?
Luis, we learned about this just before 10 o'clock this morning. You were one of the first, if not the first crew out the door. Describe to us what happened once you got on scene to the time that we first talked to you, because when we first talked to you, you were talking about how it's kind of calmed down.
As soon as we pulled up, I could see two police cars start to barricade the two entryways. You know how just off of Colfax and Esplanade in front of Denver East, there's that roundabout area. They began to barricade that area there, and just several students talking to each other back and forth. That similar intensity that very sadly people are all too familiar with, of people trying to understand, are you okay? What happened inside? And then when I go up to those students and try to ask, they don't even know either. And so we're still working to confirm a lot of information. And like I said, we should be expecting an update very soon here.
And we did just get another tweet within the last couple of minutes from Denver Public Schools confirming exactly what Denver Police released earlier, that 2 adult faculty members have been taken to area hospitals. Again, they're reminding parents they will be doing a controlled release once Denver Police allow. They say they are working with RTD as well. This is new information to increase the number of buses on the 15 line to help students get home. Of course, that is what we know at this time. Once we learn more, we will bring that to you. Luis, a big question, and I don't know if you've been able to get this answered yet, that a lot of parents are wondering right now, and especially as we're giving information about ambulances or about paramedics heading into the school and out of the school, did the shooting happen inside or outside of the school? That's the #1 question that a lot of people have at this time.
We still are waiting to confirm whether or not that the actual location of the incident itself. And when you talk about paramedics and everything, we actually haven't seen paramedics going in and out of this particular area. This has really been the area where police have been entering to get into the scene and everything. So we have personally not seen paramedics leaving this exact area off of Colfax and onto that street. So yeah, we are still waiting for that and waiting to hear more information.
Yeah, it looks like, and it's just because you were talking to us, of course, that there is an ambulance leaving right behind you right now. Again, we did see 2 ambulances that were parked right in front of the school. We saw a gurney go in maybe 10 minutes ago. We know that just a few minutes ago that gurney came out. We didn't want to show that to you, and now that ambulance is leaving. A few minutes ago, or a few seconds ago, the lights were on in that ambulance. They're working to get their way out of this crime scene right now. Again, the crime scene tape's up, all the law enforcement is there. They're moving the tape so that the ambulance can get out.
And something that Luis had actually mentioned was the people he had talked to, from the parents who described as having a calm frustration to the volunteer who was visibly shaken. This obviously is impacting people in a lot of different ways, but the one fact is it sure is affecting them. Of course, a lot of things happening. It's coming several weeks after a shooting there outside of East High School. This coming on 2 years to the day that a shooter killed 10 people at a King Soopers in Boulder. This is something that Coloradans have been, asking for change for a while when it comes to preventing gun violence. We saw the students there at East High School walk out from the high school to the Capitol demanding that same change, so you can understand why there is frustration among this community.
Yeah, and as Luis was talking about, this is really hard because the first question right now, once he talks to people who, obviously don't want to go on camera right now, and understandably because this is still very new, they want to know what's happening out there, right? So that's frustrating, not having information about where on campus this happened and more information. And in addition, it's frustrating for parents, for staff, for students who unfortunately just saw this with Luis Garcia, a student there that was shot in the parking lot in his car just a few weeks ago. And that's why we saw this march and protest with the students just last week. And it was a big march all the way to the Capitol. We interviewed some of the students at East High School that morning, and they were very knowledgeable about gun laws, gun control, what they wanted to see happen as students.
In fact, it was almost sad how knowledgeable they were about this. That tells you just how much they've been paying attention. That tells you how much their lives have been impacted by shootings just like that. I know you and I, when we were questioning them, and when Courtney Yoon was also asking her questions as well, that was the one thing we talked about, was the fact that somebody that young should not be so aware. They should be able to live their lives, as a child. They should be able to enjoy that freedom that you only get in your youth with that. And instead, they're so focused on trying to change laws, trying to change security, what they can do to protect themselves in schools where you send your kids with the expectation that they're there to learn in a safe manner.
That's what was so difficult that morning when Courtney was talking to the students. She initially asked one student, what do you want to see? And they said kind of we want to see more gun control, more gun legislation. And when Courtney asked in what way, they had a list of actual things they wanted to see happen within their school, with the legislature. They knew exactly what they wanted and what they wanted to see. Yeah,
absolutely. Again, really sad though for teenagers in high school to be so knowledgeable about something that teenagers, prior, to the 90s, early 90s and beyond, would have never thought about a day in their lives.
So again, this is another live shot from the ground there where you can see crime scene tape. There is an ambulance that's there. That ambulance has been there since we started talking earlier this morning. We have not seen any other gurneys go inside, but there is a huge police presence in the area, and you can see that when we take the Sky 9 shot. Again, investigators working to find out some more information, how this started, when this started, where it started in the school. Again, we do know that the suspect did leave the scene, and residents in the area were getting calls to stay inside, shelter inside, clearly, looking for someone in the area.
I want to get back to some information for parents that are understandably shaken up at this time. Students right now, we're told from Denver Public Schools, are being held within their third period classrooms until further notice. But once Denver police do give the go-ahead, say it's safe for them to do so, Denver Public Schools says that East High will start doing a controlled release. They say that parents will be able to pick up their children at 17th and Esplanade. Students who drove there will be escorted to their cars in the parking lots there at the school, and they will be allowed to leave. And if your student rides the bus and will continue to do so, they will be held until their bus arrives. They also say they're working with RTD to increase the number of buses on the 15 line to help those students get home. But again, if you are waiting to pick up your child, Denver Public Schools says once Denver police say it is okay to do so, you'll be allowed to do just that. You can pick them up at 17th and Esplanade. And again, if your student drove to school today, they will be escorted to their cars in the parking lot and then allowed to walk home. It looks like we have a group gathering here just at the corner of across the street from the school. It's hard to make out exactly who is in that group. We know earlier we were seeing a lot of parents, though, that were showing up to check on the situation.
And you can understand why, even though police are saying, please don't come to the school right now. There's enough going on, but parents showing up to figure out where their kid is and if their kid's safe. Again, they are planning this controlled release of students right now. There's a lot of information from Denver police about where that's happening, if the kids drove to school, or if not, they're taking them to 17th and Esplanade. Again, we've been talking about how this is 2 staff members that were shot this morning. They were transported with likely non-life-threatening injuries. Brianna Fernandez is at Denver Health right now. We're working to get some more information from her. We did see an ambulance just shortly ago load up someone from a gurney that we saw go in just a few minutes prior to that and take off from the scene with their lights on. And
you can only imagine what that crowd right there is thinking as they watch all of this unfold. Of course, our Luis De Leon said he was able to talk with a parent or two who both had a very calm frustration there, understandably. We were told right now we're standing by for a press conference with Denver police. Of course, once that begins, we're going to get that over to you to get you the latest information. But Corey, you can understand the parents right now, a lot of them showing up, that looks exactly like who we're seeing right there standing at that corner. Parents with very limited information at this time, very scared for their students. Yeah, as a parent, I can't imagine how hard this information is to hear about a shooting at a school that your child goes to. And even though they don't want parents there, you can see why parents are coming. A lot of parents are showing up by the minute here. Again, we did see that Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas was there. He was kind of briefing Denver Mayor Michael Hancock on the situation, again, preparing for this press conference that is just beginning. So let's listen in.
Possible today, but we want to make sure we give the public an update on the situation here at East High School. Obviously, a very difficult, challenging situation. Before we get started, my name is Michael Hancock, the mayor of the city and county of Denver. What we're going to do today is to ask Chief Ron Thomas to give a situational report on the incident here at East High School. And then we'll bring up the superintendent, Dr. Marrero, who will give a situational update on the school and what we're going to be doing going forward here at East as well as other schools throughout the district. There will be an orderly timed release of students in just a few moments out of East High School. But we want to also give you an update that what we do know today is that a male student who was under certain agreement to be patted down each day here at East High School, shot and injured 2 staff members at East. What we know about them right now is that they're both, one's in surgery right now, the other one is stable and able to talk and to give statements in terms of what happened. We know that one other student unrelated to the shooting was transported because of an allergic reaction and a visceral reaction to the tension of the moment. Nothing trumps the safety of our young people in this building and the faculty and staff, and we feel for them right now. This should never, as a parent, I can tell you, never be a concern of a parent, whether or not their kids are safe in their building. And so Chief Thomas and Dr. Marrero and DPS Board of Education and I are committed to making sure we do everything we can to keep our young people and the faculty and staff of these buildings safe. Let me turn it over now to Chief Ron Thomas to give a situational report and give you more details on what happened today, and then we'll have our superintendent, Dr. Marrero, share as well. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. So what I can share at this point in time is that at approximately 9:50 this morning, a call was aired of a shooting here at East High School. Officers and medical professionals from Denver Health Medical arrived on scene very, very quickly and discovered 2 adult males that had suffered gunshot wounds. Those 2 individuals were transported emergent to Denver Health Medical. One is currently in serious but stable condition. The other is currently in surgery, listed in critical condition. What I can share as it relates to the incident that caused those 2 injuries is there was a student, as was alluded to, and as part of a safety plan, they were undergoing a search. During that search, obviously a weapon was retrieved, a handgun was retrieved, and several shots were fired, striking those 2 individuals. That individual then fled the school, but we do know who that individual is, and a search is underway to try to locate that particular individual. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Marrero from Denver Public Schools, who will talk about the school's response.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. Deeply sorry that we're here. Really feel strongly that we shouldn't be here, but here we are. My prayers to the East community and, of course, our 2 staff members who are in the hospital at the moment. In terms of what we're doing at East, Mayor Hancock and Chief Thomas just explained in terms of what happened. I don't want to reiterate the happenings of earlier today. We will have an organized release. The communications should be going out to the parents right now. But also tomorrow and the next day, meaning the remainder of the week, East will not be in session. In terms of what we can expect at East from here until the end of the school year, in collaboration with Chief Thomas and support of our mayor, also communicated this to the Board of Education, that we will have 2 armed officers here at East until the end of the school year. We're looking forward to expanding that conversation to see how we can reestablish a relationship with presence at our schools, in particular our high schools. In terms of the Board of Education, I believe that they're going to make themselves available tomorrow in lieu of our board meeting. That would be an opportune time to have a conversation in terms of what safety looks like in our schools from here on out. En breve, en español, lo que pasó está el día de hoy, no sé si fue por la mañana, un estudiante que nosotros recibimos en enero de otro distrito llegó armado, 2 oficiales o personal de la escuela se confrontaron y él disparó a los 2. Los 2 adultos están en el hospital y ahora vamos a comenzar, los niños se van a ir piso a piso a la casa. Mañana no va a escuela aquí en East y el viernes tampoco. La semana van a tener libre. Vamos a tener 2 miembros de la policía aquí hasta el fin de la temporada, hasta junio. Y ojalá podamos hacer eso en la otra escuela. Yo creo que tengo el apoyo de la Junta de Educación, pero mañana a las 4:30, la Junta de Educación está disponible para contestar o explicar el plan sobre la policía. Muchas gracias.
Let me just say 2 things. One is a related situation. Paramedics were in the building when the shooting occurred, and they were able to immediately begin to administer support and treatment to the individuals who were wounded, and that I think will play a huge role in their ultimate recovery from this. And again, we'll keep them in our prayers. But we want to thank our first responders, our EMTs, our firefighters, and certainly our police department who were on the scene within minutes of this incident occurring. And then finally, before we go to question and answer, to the parents, I want to share with you that I've had a chance to talk to a couple of them who are here, obviously. They're frustrated and they're angry, as they should be. And again, those of us who are parents and have young people in this building, we certainly understand their frustration and their pain. The faculty and staff are concerned. We must continue to work on addressing safety in our school buildings and in our city in general, and we will. We have never stopped with that. The police department have been working to have a presence outside of this building for quite some time. I think it's clear now that we need to do even more interdiction with our police officers inside the buildings in these type of situations. So right now, those are the circumstances we know with regards to the condition of the victims. We are looking for the suspect. We will find that suspect, and we will hold that suspect accountable for his actions this morning in placing everyone in danger and certainly wounding the 2 staff members who were doing their job and trying to keep everyone safe at the time. So we'll open up for question and answer. Please ask directly who you're talking to so we can get them to the mic. Yes, sir.
A minute of questions.
Yes, okay. We have brief time because we want to make sure we get this order released. Go ahead.
Chief Thomas, can you please give us more details? You said the suspect was being patted down when the shooting happened. Did the person grab the gun? Walk us through that, you kids.
Well, a lot of those details will be...
Can't share details of the behavior plan.
Sure. So a lot of those details will be available to us after a more in-depth investigation, but what I can share with you is this particular student actually had a safety plan that was in place where they were to be searched at the beginning of the school day every day. They had been searched previously to today and had never had a weapon on them before. However, today, during that search which took place away from other students, away from other school staff, they did produce that weapon and fire shots.
And where did that
It occurred in the front of the school, in the office area, again, away from students and other school staff.
Anyone else? Yes.
Can you say if they were teachers or faculty members? Maybe specific to what their role was inside of his high school?
So they were deans, they were school administrators.
School administrators.
Yes.
Here.
Who was doing the patting down?
Again, it was the school administrators.
Yes.
Chief, in terms of the suspect, is this a current student at East High School, and is this person under the age of 18?
Yes, under the age of 18, current student of East High School.
Chief, how many students at East High have
I couldn't share that with you. I mean, I imagine that there are students that have various safety plans in place that result in certain interactions with school staff.
What leads, this is Noel, what leads to a school safety plan? Like, how does a student get messaged?
Yeah, I think,
It's particular for each individual.
yeah, certainly it's particular to each individual student, yes.
Not at liberty to share, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to share that again. That's, you know, we're talking about juveniles, we're talking about students in school that have been allowed to participate in school activities.
Parents might want to know why
Mayor,
they
last
can't
question,
give
10
more
minutes.
details as to what qualifies a student for a safety plan. Is the district willing to share that for the city?
Sorry, we cannot. Bound by FERPA, we cannot disclose any particulars about any student individual plan, whether it's academic or behavioral. And
Specific student in general, like what happens, like how a safety plan works and what gets you there?
sure, it's very nuanced and it's particular. They're individual, so it's based on past behavior, and that's as far as I can feel comfortable saying. So it's as a result of previous behavior.
Is there something that you can say that appears out there who are listening to this and they hear the word nuance and they can't get details, but they want details regarding their children's safety?
Sure. It's past educational and also behavioral experiences that each individual student may have exhibited in the past.
Is this a system that takes place in more than just East High School? This safety plan that you have. Can you tell me how many schools do this in the district?
This is common for all schools in all districts. It's part of what we have in terms of making sure that we can support the needs and behavioral needs of students. So it's very common across the nation.
Was the weapon recovered? Has the handgun been recovered, or does the suspect still have it?
My understanding is that the weapon has not been recovered, but again, we do know who the individual is. We do know where they live, but we are familiar with associates of this individual, and so we do believe we will be successful in finding that individual and that weapon very soon.
Is the area where this took place, is that under video surveillance? Is that something that you guys have video of that area?
I'm not sure if there was video in this specific location.
Is that an area where there is video surveillance of that area, Dr. Morrow?
There could be. I know the team is evaluating, and I also know that there has been confirmation that the student left the grounds, so that leads me to say that yes, there is. And I have to apologize. I don't want to conclude this press conference because I want to support the students who are about to be dismissed. So, pardon.
Can we get his name? Name of the suspect? Why aren't you releasing the name of the suspect if you're searching for him?
Because he's a juvenile.
But is there a danger to the public if this juvenile ran with a gun to area? Is there still a threat to the public? Take care.
Certainly it's a concern that we have an individual who is not in our custody at this time who is armed with a weapon and has actually used that weapon. So we certainly do recognize that there is a concern. We will continue to evaluate that, and if we identify a specific location where this individual is likely to be, we will certainly provide information to that to that neighborhood that may be impacted by that, and certainly as we learn more about his whereabouts and his motives, we will certainly share that. No, so there was a regular protocol with this particular student that involved a search of his person, and previous searches of his person on previous days did not result in the location of a weapon. The first time, yes, today, upon his entrance into the school building.
Can you
Well, again, so he was secluded. You know, he was secluded with just these school administrators during this safety protocol. And so he did flee that location where the search was taking place and was able to get out of the school before anyone else was able to secure or subdue him. We don't have any sense of where he is. We do know, again, where he lives, and we are executing a search warrant at that location to see if we can identify evidence. We are identifying associates of this particular individual to identify where he may go from here. Again, he's a juvenile.
Were there paramedics already in the building? Mayor, is that what you were saying, that there were already paramedics here? Were they here for a career day or what?
No, they were here for an unrelated medical response, and I think it was related to the young lady who was already sick when they came. Yes, yes, yes.
Where they were shot, and then there was a third student who was already being treated.
She was being treated in the building at the time. Paramedics were responding to her, and this came in my conversation. I went to the hospital once this happened to be there when the victims came in, and so I had a chance to speak to the paramedics. They were already in the building, and so they were able to immediately administer support and treatment to those who had been wounded, and begin the process of calling in additional support. So that hopefully will help in their recovery. Okay.
Chief, is the crackdown something that a school resource officer would under, if they still existed in the schools, would have been doing rather than the deans?
Not necessarily, no. No. So, I think that we don't want to have negative interactions with students and officers. So, no, I don't think that it would have been appropriate for officers to have done that type of activity.
What would you say to the East High School community?
What can I say?
Yeah, well, what can you say? Again, this is another situation.
Yes, a very troubling situation. This school has gone through a tremendous time over the last year or so, and we, I think, have been responsive to that. We've had a significant presence in the school since the first incident that happened just over a month ago. We've had a significant presence outside of the school, both during the beginning of the school day and at the end of the school day. And as was shared before, we will have 2 officers assigned within the school for the entirety of the school day for the remainder of the school year.
Had this student previously been expelled from East High School?
No.
Let's do this. I know that we wanted to make sure that we got as current information as possible to the parents, to the community. We are looking for this individual, but we know now he's an African-American juvenile. He wears an afro with a hoodie on that had an astronaut on it. If anyone has any information, we ask that you notify us as soon as possible so that we can apprehend this individual. We ask people to be careful not to approach him. Obviously, he is armed and dangerous and willing to use the weapon, as we learned this morning. But we're going to do everything we can to keep the community and the parents up to date as we know it. At the same time, we're going to continue our engagement with Denver Public School officials to continue to work to keep these buildings safe and the students and faculty and staff in these buildings safe. But we're going to get the chief back to his team and command post, and we'll do everything we can to keep you all up to date as well so you can help us get the information out. Thank you all.
So again, that was Denver Mayor Michael Hancock along with Chief Ron Thomas and Superintendent Dr.
Yes.
Marrero giving us an update on the situation there at East High School this morning. Again, we know that a call came in of a shooting at East High School at 9:50 this morning. We know that there was a male student there under the age of 18 who was part of an agreement to be patted down every day at school. This took place right inside the school in an office that is away from students. And when that happened, there was a weapon, and this student shot 2 staff members. One is in critical condition in surgery right now. One is in serious but stable condition, able to talk and give statements right now to investigators.
Yeah, we were told that something that was, that really helped out in the situation is that paramedics happened to already be inside the school whenever the shooting happened, so they were on scene, able to treat the 2 administrators that had been shot. Again, as Corey had mentioned, this student was under protocol to be routinely patted down every day. They say prior to today, never had a weapon on them. It is our understanding that is when that shooting happened, though, this morning, again, just right outside of the office area at the front of the school at this time. Again, it was a male student that shot 2 school administrators. Again, their updates on their conditions right now, we're told that one is in critical condition in surgery, the other is in serious condition, but we're told they are stable, that they're actually able to talk and give statements at this time. So we know that will certainly help out with police investigation. One thing you heard there from Superintendent Marrero as they get ready to do an orderly release of the students there at the school was a strong sentiment that was shared by him. We heard it from Mayor Hancock that they shouldn't be here, that we shouldn't be here again, but here we are.
Yeah, so Chief Thomas was talking about how, of course, you know, this suspect is out there right now, and that is concerning. Armed and dangerous. They did say that this is a student that is a current student under the age of 18, so they wouldn't give us a bunch of information, except for the fact that this is an African-American student with an afro. He was wearing a hoodie this morning with an astronaut on it. Again, they are looking for that student right now who fled the scene right after the shooting happened. But as you mentioned, you know, Dr. Marrero saying, we feel strongly we shouldn't be here, but here we are again. So they have now said that they're going to have 2 armed officers at East High School every day until the end of the school year. Also, the Education Board will be meeting tomorrow to discuss how to move forward in terms of safety. We
want to get over to Courtney Yoon, who is live there at the scene for us this morning. Courtney, we just wrapped up this press conference learning new information. You were there around parents and everybody else who has showed up. What are you seeing and what is the sense that's out there?
Yeah, hey, Jordan and Corey. That press conference just wrapped up, and as you heard, that they are still searching for the suspect. They do know it's a juvenile student here, and they said that they do know where he lives, so they will be looking for him. But I did get to speak with a parent earlier today. His name was David Port, and he was just telling me that he works from home, luckily, just a couple blocks away, and he ran down here after he heard about the shooting that happened inside of the school, which we learned in the press conference that shooting happened just by the front office there, away from other students. Luckily this morning, but that parent was telling me this is the 4th or 5th time this school year that he's had to come run down here when a shooting has happened. And he says at this point, you know, he's worried about having his daughter in school, that at this point he doesn't know if he wants her to be going to school every day because he worries so much about it. He was able to speak with his daughter and said that she was safe, that they were texting, but that her mental health is not doing well. He knows that her friends aren't either, that these students are under a lot of stress just being in high school alone, you know, preparing for college and all that stuff and studying and getting good grades. And then they've got all this other stuff on top of it, this heavier stuff when it comes to shootings and their friends dying and being scared to be at school. David Port was telling me that his daughter, you know, hates it. She hates coming to school. She loves to learn. She wants to get that knowledge. She wants to be here, but she hates coming to school every day because it stresses her out. And I think we have a soundbite from David now.
They're at risk every day, and from my perspective, there's no reason and no justification for them to actually show up at school anymore. The risk is too great.
Yeah, so David, like he said, you know, the risk is too great. He was telling me that this is stressful for him as a parent, obviously very scary. His wife came down as well to come pick up their child. The parents are able to pick up their kids at 17th and Esplanade, and they said that they would be doing that release soon here.
You know, Courtney, something that we had heard there from, you know, Mayor Hancock as well as Chief Ron Thomas is about the security that was already put into place after that shooting that happened there a little bit more than a month ago. Again, as Corey had mentioned earlier, they say they're going to have those 2 armed officers at the school for the rest of the year. But clearly that's not something that even makes parents like David, who you just talked to, feel good about sending their kids to school right now. That didn't make his daughter, who says she doesn't like going to school, that doesn't make her feel any safer.
Suggesting things like online learning at this point. You know, he says that he doesn't feel great about sending his daughter to school. Like you said, his daughter doesn't want to come here. It's just because it's scary. They're asking for legislation. They want changes as well. Like we heard from other students when they did the walkout a couple weeks ago after the death of their classmate Luis Garcia. And you know, David was asking for some of the same things. He says, why are 18-year-olds allowed to have guns? We should up the age. He was also talking about background checks, universal background checks. Getting rid of automatic weapons. So those kinds of things are on parents' minds as well. And they agree, you know, their students shouldn't have to be thinking about these things when they're in class and that they're trying to learn. So yeah, it's just all around not a great situation today for students, and their future here seems kind of apprehensive. They're worried about what's going to come next, how they're going to be able to continue their education at school. And you know, the other thing that David said too is that this East High School is such a great community. You know, they have such great teachers and administrators. They talked about how supportive their teachers are of their students, and it's just terrible that this is happening to this community.
And you can understand why those students feel scared to go to school.
Yeah, Courtney, thank you. You know, Mayor Hancock said, I get it. As a parent, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, but we must continue to work on safety in our buildings. We must put more officers inside the building. And again, they are saying that they're going to have 2 armed officers at East High School every single day until the end of the school year. One interesting fact that they said this morning, I believe it was Chief Thomas had mentioned, again, this male student was part of this agreement to be patted down every single day at school, but had never had a weapon on them previously at school. And this was part of a behavior program that Dr. Morero said is very common within schools and districts.
Yeah, exactly. We do have Anusha Roy out there live at the scene right now, too. We want to check in with her at this time. Anusha, the same question we've been asking all of our crews there at the scene. What are you seeing? What is the sense that you're getting? And you know, what are you learning there? And I know, you have a child at home. This has to be hard for you to cover, too.
Yeah, and I just had a really heartbreaking conversation with some of the kids here. It was actually a brother and sister who were outside of the high school when this happened, and they realized something was going down. They look in the school and they start to see all of their friends and people running and ducking and trying to hide, and realizing that their safety was in question as well. And I asked them about how they're feeling being on campus, and what was particularly heartbreaking is that these were all kids who were a part of the walkout that we've been talking about as well, where they were just asking to feel safer at school. Better safety. They want to be able to come here and learn without having to be watching what's happening around them. And that, Jordan, is their ask again today. They said right now what they're worried about is connecting with all of their friends and their family, their brothers and sisters and cousins who go here. Not all of them have reconnected with each other, saying we're not leaving campus until I know that my family is okay, is what I heard from one of the junior students here, Tyrone. And I asked with the city officials here, what do you need? And he goes, I just want to feel safe. I just want to be able to come to class and learn, and that's what my focus is. And if I can't do that, then that's a problem. It is so heartbreaking because when I ask them about, when that day comes, you do come back to school, they go, oh, we're used to this protocol. Unfortunately, we have been through this, more than once. And what they are hoping for at this point is not just their school, but schools across Denver kind of joining forces and trying to improve, the safety situation, because like I said, Jordan and Corey, they just want to learn, and they are sad and they were scared, and they know that this is not the way going to school should be, and they are really hoping that there will be change, that their educational experience will be different.
And this goes back to exactly what we were talking about earlier, Anusha, that these students, they're so used to this that they've also become incredibly knowledgeable about the change that they want to curb gun violence at schools and within their community in general.
Yeah, and it was almost this just like resigned conversation of the fact that this is not new to them, which is just so stunning, because we are talking about sophomores and juniors who just came here for a regular Wednesday, at school, and then once again are seeing sirens and police surrounding the area, finding out who was hurt and how they were hurt, and then that awful picture of people running and ducking and trying to keep themselves safe.
Yeah, I mean, that is the very sad thing, Anusha, is they have very clear ideas of what would make them feel safe inside these schools at such a young age. It's not this blanket conversation of we want gun control and gun legislation. They know exactly what they want. They've looked into, laws and what other states are doing, because they know what they want.
Yeah, and they would really like to be heard, They were saying we were part of the walkout, and here we are again, finding ourselves in a situation asking, please listen to us. How do we make our schools and our communities safer?
Yeah, such a tough conversation. Anusha, thank you. So again, if you're just now joining us, we do have a shooting that happened this morning at 9:50 at East High School. We know that 2 staff members were shot. One is in critical condition in surgery right now. The other is in serious but stable condition. Again, the student here is under 18 years old, was part of a protocol to be patted down every single day as they entered school, and as that happened this morning, that student did shoot 2 staff members and then left the scene. Again, they are looking for that student right now.
We have Luis De Leon standing by at the scene as well. Luis was just listening in on that press conference. Luis, of course, a lot of information that was able to help us understand a little bit more about this situation. I want to ask again about that pat-down process that they talked about with this particular student. That seemed to be of big interest right there, a really big question that a lot of people continue to have.
Lots of us were asking questions about that, and the district superintendent Marrero specifically would not elaborate too much about how that works, other than saying that this is a particular initiative that goes from student to student depending on their particular situation. So still some unclear details about sort of the sequence of events leading up to today specifically with regards to that exact pat down, other than knowing that it was 2 administrators conducting that in what local leaders have called a secluded area away from students. They're actually, you heard from that update there, that there actually happened to be paramedics already inside of the building actually responding to an allergic reaction call. And Mayor Hancock was quoted saying that he's hoping that because those paramedics were already in the building, able to render aid almost immediately to the 2 that were injured in this, that it would help with their condition. We're obviously hoping for the best for those 2 in the hospital right now. But yes, lots of questions right now surrounding that student safety plan, and that is certainly something we'll be following up with on the school district there.
And Luis, we know that they're getting ready to do this orderly release of the students who, to our understanding, are being still held in their 3rd period classrooms at this time. Has there been any movement on that front? Have students been started to be released at this time?
Well, actually, from my vantage point right now, I can see some students sort of that they've been watching from out the window and things like that onto the press conference down here and everything. And so we have not really seen much movement on that front just yet. I still am seeing some students as well, seemingly trying to communicate with either their parents or other students that are still inside the school as well. Like I said, I spoke to a volunteer, a man who says he's a volunteer here at East High School, specifically with a junior here. He was still waiting for an update as well on that, and so we are waiting to hear when that controlled release will happen. But obviously, because there's a few scenes happening here right now, we have the suspect that is still out there at the moment. We're waiting for an update on that as well, and so obviously there's the concern there for community members there too. So,
Luis, going back to this this pat down that was part of a behavior issue with this student, it was really interesting because Dr. Marrero was saying that this is something that's kind of common within schools.
Right, and again, not much elaboration off of that, because one question that several people asked then as well was, why wasn't a school resource officer doing it and everything? We know that there were no SROs in here at this scene there, but we do know it was 2 administrators doing that in particular. One person did ask why wouldn't there be an SRO doing it, and Chief Thomas then interjected saying that's not necessarily always the case. But obviously still a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of clarification that we are seeking with regards to this plan, because it's also the first time a lot of us have even heard of such a thing happening at inside of these schools.
Luis, last time we talked to you, or I believe it was Courtney Yoon actually, who mentioned that this student who shot these 2 school administrators had left the school. Police addressed that as well. Talk to us a little bit at this time what police are saying about that, about the suspect's whereabouts, and you know, the fact that they seem pretty confident that they were going to find him.
You know, we talked about a sort of calm urgency around here that was very much so exhibited during this update, and one would have to expect that because there is such a confidence from law enforcement officials that means that they do have tabs. They did say they know where this individual lives. They know the parties that are associated with this individual as well. And so obviously we are still waiting to hear on an update if they will be able to apprehend that individual in time. But we do know, once again, since I have you guys here, it's an African-American juvenile with an afro. They were last seen wearing a hoodie with an astronaut on it.
All right, Luis, thank you. We'll check back in with you in a few. We were just taking a look at Sky 9 from above the crowd there. You can see it continues to grow. A lot of parents showing up there. Again, we're waiting to get some more information about when they're going to do this controlled release of students. Luis was saying that he can see students are looking outside from the windows inside the class right now, again, wondering when they're going to be released. Again, that's a controlled release that will happen depending on if the kids drove to school or if they take a bus.
Yeah, and something else that our teams have noticed, it did look like Mayor Hancock was addressing parents at this time. Understandably, those parents are frustrated. They continue to have to be scared for their students, especially given the fact that there was another shooting outside of East High School only a little more than a month ago. They have been through this before. At this point, you heard Courtney spoke to a dad who said he has been to the school 4 or 5 times now with this same scared feeling that his daughter has told him she hates coming to school, feels like she's risking her life every day just to get her education there. Of course, those are the kind of parents that are addressing Mayor Hancock right now, so you can only imagine what those conversations are like.
Yeah, tough conversations. Again, a lot of people were saying, why isn't there an SRO doing this with this student in there that was part of this agreement to be patted down? And we know that there were no SROs within East High School. Again, they have now said that they are going to have 2 armed officers at East High School every day until the end of the school year. And the education board meeting is actually going to happen tomorrow to discuss how they move forward in terms of safety and security. And we have heard the students, again, who are so knowledgeable, unfortunately, about this at such a young age, about what they want to see within their school to feel safe.
And something that was interesting is we heard from both Superintendent Alex Marrero as well as Chief Ron Thomas talk about the fact that they have a significant presence at the school of police. And since the last shooting, again, a little more than a month ago, but you also heard Mayor Hancock say it's clear that a lot more needs to be done. And I imagine that's exactly what parents are saying. We've heard students calling for that for weeks now.
Right. Yeah, because the East High School shooting that happened there with Luis Garcia happened just a few weeks ago. So again, this is really raw for a lot of the students and the parents, the faculty, the community in the area. Again, I do want to mention that this student who was part of this agreement, again, to be patted down every day right there on the inside of school in the office area that's away from students. This was part of a behavioral plan. They had never had a weapon on them previously when they've done this pat down. So it's something that they implemented because of stuff outside of school or other behavior that they saw within school that did not involve a weapon.
I think at this time we should give an update to anybody who might just be tuning in of the latest information that we have learned. Of course, this is breaking news that we are following out of East High School. We have learned that a male student shot 2 school administrators. Again, as you heard Corey there just talking about, this was during a routine pat down that was a safety agreement between the student and this school. Patted down every day that he would show up at school, to our knowledge and to what police said, had never had a weapon on him before. During that process, though, today is when that student shot those 2 school administrators just outside the office area there at the front of the school. Again, Denver police got that call about 9:50 this morning. They say the good thing that happened was that paramedics had actually already been there inside the school for a totally separate medical issue. It sounds like a student was having an allergic reaction to something. That's what they were there to address, but they were on scene when this shooting happened. And you heard there that Mayor Hancock said he really believes that will be a big role in the 2 administrators who were shot in their recovery.
We're going to take another look right now of Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and Chief Ron Thomas talking right now to parents. You can see they're frustrated. They're really frustrated and angry that this continues to happen. They want answers right now. I know that Superintendent Dr. Marrero said, we feel strongly that we shouldn't be here, but here we are. And the mayor said, I know as a parent, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. We must continue to work on safety within our buildings right now. They are just listening right now to parents who have been gathering. There's quite a large crowd outside of East High School right now, again, asking questions.
While we're not going to take their audio, it's clear to see just from our cameras around that area, there is definitely a lot of emotion, a lot of anger there as they are talking to the mayor and the police chief there. I want to give a quick update too on the 2 school administrators who were shot. We are told that one is in critical condition in surgery at this time. The other is in serious condition but stable. We are told that person is able to communicate and give statements to police, which we know is really going to help in their investigation.
Yeah, there's a reason why we're not taking the audio there, because parents, you can tell, very frustrated right now, trying to figure out, answers and how to move forward here. Again, we do want to say that the suspect, who's under 18 years old, a current student at East High School, did leave the scene after this shooting, and we have not been given an update on that student's whereabouts. We know that it's an African-American student with an afro. He was wearing a hoodie with an astronaut on it, under 18 years old, but they know exactly who this student is, again, because he was part of this protocol to be patted down every day. So they know who this student is, they know where he lives, they know who he's connected to, and they have a lot of patrol out right now looking for that student.
All right, we have a pretty big update from Denver Public Schools. They say that they have received clearance from Denver Police to go ahead and start releasing the students. That's what we've been talking about for about the past half hour now. So parents, if you have a student there at the school, you can pick up your student at 17th and Esplanade. We are told that students who drove themselves to school, they're going to be escorted to their cars in the parking lot. They will be allowed to leave, and students who ride the bus will be held there until their bus arrives. DPS says that they're also working with RTD to increase the number of buses on the 15 line so that they can start getting students home. Again, this is something that, as even our Luis De Leon was describing, the students up until now had been held in their third period classrooms. You could see them staring out the window, trying to figure out what was happening as that press conference was unfolding.
And again, we have to give credit to the first responders that were there this morning. Again, the call came in at 9:50 of a shooting, and first responders were there very quickly to respond. And then on top of it, paramedics were already in the building for a separate student that was apparently having an allergic reaction. So they were able to respond immediately to these two staff members who were shot, and again transport them to the hospital.
One thing is these parents are calling for change. They're calling for these schools to be safer. Chief Ron Thomas addressed that to a certain degree, saying that they're going to have 2 armed officers there at the school for the rest of the school year. He's also said that they've had a significant police presence since at least the last shooting a little more than a month ago. Again, that didn't seem to satisfy the parents or the students who talked to a lot of our crews there on the ground about their feelings of being scared and frustrated at this time too. Again, one parent telling our Courtney Yoon that he's had conversations with his own daughter who says she is scared to go to school. You also heard from, Anusha Roy, who's been talking to students and parents as well, talking about online school becoming a more popular option. It's
really the sentiment that, our reporters that are there on scene are hearing from parents and from students, some tearing up, some at a loss for words on how is this happening again? We just did a march last week about the shooting that happened at East High School about a month ago, where Luis Garcia, who was a student there, a soccer player, loved by so many students, was shot in the parking lot and later died. So again, you could see there from Sky 9 that the students were being released. We just talked about they got clearance from Denver Police to release the students, and that's going to be at 17th and Esplanade, where parents can pick up. Anyone who drove will be escorted to cars. If the kids took a bus to school, they're going to be held until those buses arrive, again, working with RTD as well. Again, we know that 2 staff members were shot. One, again, at last check, was in surgery and critical condition. The other in serious but stable condition and able to talk to investigators and give statements about exactly what happened.
We've been talking about how the parents and the students are feeling. We have been able to talk to a junior there at East High School. Let's hear what they have to say.
Right now it's kind of going through my mind, what can we do? What can the police do to make the school better? Not the school, but the community, other schools, because other schools are going through the same thing that we're going through. So it's not should just be one school talking, it should be all of the schools talking.
And that goes exactly to what we were talking about earlier. This isn't specific to East High School, though. Right now, this is the school that is the center of what is happening today. This really affects a larger community. And you talk to a lot of people who live here in Colorado who have seen the headlines come out from shootings just like this before. And a lot of them are calling for something to be done.
Yeah, we see it time and time again. I know that Courtney Yoon was covering that march and protest that happened just last week with East High School students. And that crowd was massive. And she asked them, what do you want? And they initially said, we want to see gun control legislation. And then she asked specifically, what do you want? And they knew exactly what they wanted to feel safe inside the schools.
Everything from a 3-day waiting period to raising the purchasing age to 21 years old, which is really heartbreaking that you have these teenagers in high school, you know, who they should be thinking about after school activities or prom or, you know, graduation. And instead, they know exactly the kind of legislation they want to make it through not only the local level, but also the state level and ultimately the national level, because these are headlines they see all too often. And for them, they're not headlines, they're reality. Yeah. They're living in that every single day.
They're pushing for change and pushing forward in a big way. We saw that with that march and the rally. Again, we're showing you a Sky 9 shot right now of students being released, many of them making their way into the crowd of parents that ended up showing up there at East High School. So many of them hearing the news, rushing right there to the scene, wanting to get answers. We've seen the parents asking the chief, Ron Thomas, and the mayor about what's being done. What can we do? We got to talk about safety. They have already decided that for the rest of the school year, every day they're going to have 2 armed officers at East High School. Again, they're meeting, the educational board is meeting tomorrow to discuss exactly how to move forward in terms of safety. But they're starting to put immediate things into action and make sure that these students feel safe for the end of the school year.
Yeah, right now, let's go ahead and recap the information we do know for anybody who is tuning in at this time while we wait to see if maybe one of our crews there on the ground is available to speak with us. We know that police got a call around 9:50 this morning of a shooting there at East High School. We now know that 2 adults, 2 school administrators were shot by a male student there. Again, this student was going through what we were told is a routine safety pat down, checking for weapons on this student every day that they would arrive at school. Up until today, we are told this student never had any kind of weapon on him at this time, but today he opened fire on those 2 school administrators right outside of the office area in front of the school. Of course, there's a large police presence at this time still there. We know that they were setting up a perimeter. They seemed really confident that they were going to be able to find this suspect and find him pretty soon.
Yeah, because they knew exactly who this student is, what he looks like, what he was wearing, where he lives again, and who's in his circle. So again, they are looking for that student. But again, this agreement on this pat down that this student was undergoing every day at school was kind of surprising to us. But Superintendent Dr. Morero said this is common within schools and within districts. But as Jordan said, this student had never had a weapon on them at school during any of these pat downs. This was part of a behavior plan. So this student could continue to attend school as long as the student agreed to be patted down every single day. This shooting happened right inside of the school doors in an area. It's like in an office area where some administrators are away from students. And again, paramedics were already at the school this morning for a separate, call that they were on for a student that was having an allergic reaction. So they were able to respond immediately to these 2 staff members that were shot.
Absolutely. And the mayor said he believes that's going to play a really big role in their recovery, which at this time we're told that one of them is in critical condition. They are in surgery at this time. The other in serious condition, but we're told they are stable, able to talk and give statements. Again, that's really going to help out with the police investigation. Let's talk about what you're seeing right here. This is a live shot from our Sky 9 right now. Students are being released from those classrooms at this time. They've been held in their 3rd period classrooms up until just a few minutes ago, having to watch everything from the windows. Our Luis De Leon said he could see them looking through the windows during the police press conference. Of course, they're going to go home and have these hard conversations with their parents about the safety that they feel at school, or maybe lack thereof as well. Our Courtney Yoon is there at the scene as well. We want to check back in with her at this time. Courtney, with the information that we do know and with clearly that scene growing so much more than the last time we checked in with you, any updates about talking to parents, what they're feeling, the students, anything like that?
Yeah, hey Jordan. We've been seeing students coming out of the front entrance here in just groups. Sparingly, they've been coming out every now and then. But yeah, we did speak with parents earlier today who heard what happened, who rushed over here. One of those parents I spoke with was David Port. He says this is the 4th or 5th time he's had to rush over to East High School after there's been a shooting or some kind of incident. And he's saying that, you know, right now the risk is too great to have students here, and that he's worried about his daughter, who's a junior here at East High School. And he tells me that his daughter as well is worried, that she doesn't like coming to school. She loves to learn, she's a good student, but the environment here is just too scary. It's too much for them to come to school every day. As you have been hearing, that student that did shoot those 2 administrators had that safety plan where he was patted down every day and hadn't ever produced a gun until today. And it just goes to show, you know, you just never know what could happen, and these students have that going through their minds every single day, that they don't know what might happen at school while they're trying to learn. Parents are really concerned. David was telling me, you know, maybe we need to do online learning again. Maybe we need to think of some other alternatives. He's also talking about legislation. We talked with a student when they did their walkout a couple of weeks ago, Alasia Sims. She was telling us, you know, we want to see 3-day waiting periods. We want to bump the age from 18 to 21. She was telling me she's 18 years old. She has classmates and friends who are 18 years old that she doesn't think should have guns. And as you see right now, there's some students coming out of the school here. If you're a parent wanting to pick up your student, you can do that at 17th and Esplanade. But yeah, it's one of those situations, once again, for these students that is just beyond scary, something they shouldn't have to deal with, something they shouldn't have to think about when they're coming to school. And what we've heard a lot about East High School is that it's a really supportive community, that the administrators, the teachers are really supportive of the students, the parents are very involved here, and it's just heartbreaking to see a community like this going through yet another tragedy.
Yeah, Courtney, you know, we've been talking about how just, I believe it was last week, how you were covering the march and rally for East High School students there. They were talking about gun control and legislation, and you interviewed some of the students, and they knew exactly what they wanted to see within schools. And again, at such a young age, they're so versed in this subject.
Yeah, Corey, that is a really great thing to point out there. Just thinking about, you know, how young they are and how long they've been exposed to this. I mean, even before maybe they've had personal experiences here at East High School with shootings, they've been hearing about it their entire lives, about school shootings. And they've had to become knowledgeable on this topic because it is their lives at stake. That's what they've told us. And yeah, to repeat what Alasia told me that day, when I asked her what kind of legislation she wanted to see, she said, you know, we want the age going from 18 up to 21. We want to see 3-day waiting periods. We want to see universal background checks. And there are some things going through the legislature right now, so we'll see how those do. But yeah, you know, it's just heartbreaking to think that young kids have to think about this stuff while they're at school.
All right, Courtney, thank you. Of course, as we wait for more information to roll in, one thing at this time that has not been confirmed or that we do not know is if the student who shot the 2 school administrators has been arrested by police at this time. They sounded really confident that they know where he is, or at least maybe where he's going, and that they would be able to find him. They said they know where he lives. They're going to talk to people who also know him to learn his whereabouts. But at this time, we do not know if a suspect is in fact in custody. Again, the description from Mayor Michael Hancock at this time was that this student is an African-American juvenile, has an afro, has a hoodie with an astronaut on it. So that is the person they are looking for at this time.
Yeah, Chief Thomas was saying, of course, you know, it's concerning that this suspect, this student, is still out there after 2 staff members were shot this morning. Again, they're saying that this student is armed and dangerous, and not to approach the student if you see the student in the area. Again, they are looking, but they know exactly who the student is, what he was wearing, what direction he was going, where he lives, who's in his circle. But because he's under the age of 18, they couldn't give us a whole bunch more information. But again, he was on a behavioral protocol. We had an agreement to be patted down every single day at school for weapons. And that's when this shooting happened this morning, when he was being patted down right inside the administrator's office there. That's when the gun was produced, and he shot 2 of the staff members there.
And we're told that both Both of those staff members are men, that they both suffered gunshot wounds. One is in surgery right now in critical condition. The other is in serious condition, but they are stable. That is the latest that we have learned about the two victims of this shooting. Again, police continue to look for this shooter as this presence at East High School just continues to grow every time we get another look from above at it. The last we saw, Mayor Hancock and Chief Ron Thomas were addressing parents who were doing everything from pointing fingers, very visibly frustrated and upset, as you can understand.
Yeah, the emotions ranged. We saw some that were angry. We didn't have the audio up for that reason. Some that were crying. This is very emotional for everyone there. We have seen this crowd continue to grow. A lot of parents showing up. Again, they are doing this release right now, controlled release of the students, and we've been seeing that from Sky 9. Superintendent Dr. Marrero said, look, we feel strongly we shouldn't be here. But here we are, again. And the mayor said, I'm frustrated too. I'm a parent. And he said, I get why parents are frustrated and angry, but we must continue to work together on safety in our buildings. He talked about more officers inside buildings, which is something that they're going to do immediately, adding 2 armed officers inside the school every day as the school year wraps up.
Yeah, something that was also interesting that they had talked about was the fact that there were 2 paramedics in the school at the time of the shooting. Those paramedics were responding to a different situation altogether, a student having an allergic reaction, but they happened to be there as the shooting happened, were able to assist very quickly. Other crews were able to arrive in minutes, and that fast response is what Mayor Hancock said he believes is going to play a really big role in the recovery of these 2 administrators who were shot. Now, something else that's interesting is that they all said that the Board of Education is going to meet tomorrow to discuss safety in the schools here. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see if anything that the parents tell Mayor Hancock, tell Chief Thomas, tell Superintendent Marrero today, if any of that is brought into the meeting and used into future policy. Of course, at this time, we do know that the immediate action that will be taken as far as making the schools a bit safer is that they are going to have 2 armed officers at East High School for the rest of the school year. But of course, as we heard from Tyrone, one of the students there at the school, a junior at East High, he says it's not just East High that needs to be focused on. He wants to see safety in all of the schools.
As a parent, just now seeing some of these students come out and find their mom or dad standing there and giving a big hug, it's so emotional. Yeah. It's so hard. I can't imagine what these students and parents are going through right now. Again, such a common occurrence that we're seeing right now. Again, this just happened at East High School with a student there just last month. They had a rally just last week talking about gun control and legislation. And so it's so emotional and so hard as these students now make their way out of the school and find their parents that have shown up. And maybe if she's available, we'll get to talk to our Anusha Roy again there on the scene, but something she had been talking to students about, and that, again, she's a mom as well, that's something that she said left her stunned, is exactly what we've been talking about. These students, they know way more than you would hope that they should ever know about a situation like this. They are able to talk to them about specific policy they want to see in place, about specific safety procedures they want to place. Again, keep in mind, these are teenagers. These are young teenagers who, in high school, you expect them to be maybe preparing for graduation, maybe preparing for a basketball game, some kind of after-school activity. But instead, they're worried about, am I going to survive my education? Am I going to be safe as I learn here at school? It was so specific. I mean, it was not only what they want to see in general, but what they want to see in schools right now. Very specific about SROs and armed officers and what they think will make them feel safe inside those walls. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to continue to cover this. We're going to be on the air for a while right now. We have a lot of information to get to. We got crews on the ground, and of course we're going to talk to everybody there. Yeah, we'll check in with them in just a few minutes. 9 News at Noon is going to start here in just a few minutes. We're going to review all the information that we have and check back in with them. All right, thank you for being with us here for 9 News at Noon. For those of you just joining us, we are following breaking news at East High School, where we have learned that 2 school administrators, both men, have been shot by a student at the school.
One of them is in surgery, in critical condition, we are told. The other is in serious condition and is able to talk and communicate and give statements to police. That student, though, police have not announced if they've arrested anybody at this time. They have said that they are looking for them. The description that they have released at this time is that he is an African-American juvenile, has an afro, and a hoodie with an astronaut on it.
We have several crews out there right now that we're going to check in with in just a minute here, but a little bit more on this male student that's under 18 years old. It's a current student right there at East High School. They were part of an agreement to be patted down every day at school. This was part of a behavioral thing that this student was part of, but this student had never had a weapon on them in any of these pat downs. So this student comes in every day, checks in at that office right inside the front door there, away from students where they get patted down, and that's when this shooting happened this morning. The call came in at 9:50. First responders were there very quickly. We do know that there were paramedics already at the school in the building helping out another student that was having an allergic reaction, so they were able to respond immediately to these two staff members who were shot.
And thank goodness they were, because we know that played a really big role, and it's going to continue to do so in their recovery, as we heard Mayor Michael Hancock say as well. We also heard Mayor Michael Hancock talk about safety procedures that have already been put in place after a shooting that happened outside of the school a little more than a month ago, and saying that clearly more needs to be done. This is a live look over East High School right now from our Sky 9. We're seeing everything from really frustrated parents. We saw students being released from school right now. You can imagine what they're feeling right now as well. One thing we did see from these parents, they were having a really hard conversation with Chief Ron Thomas of Denver Police Department, as well as Mayor Hancock. You could tell emotions were certainly flying as they were expressing the need for more safety in their schools. You know, they are sending their kids to get an education, and they're worried if they're going to get to see their kids again.
Some of these images are just so hard to watch, because we just saw a student run out and run to her dad and hug her. You know, like, this is a group of parents right now that are gathering, right? And they're worried about their kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we have a lot of parents on our own staff who are working to cover this. We know this isn't easy to talk about. This isn't easy to hear for all the parents at home. Chief Ron Thomas, of course, was giving an update a little bit earlier. I believe we have some sound from him. Let's listen.
What I can share as it relates to the incident that caused those 2 injuries is there was a student, as was alluded to, and as part of a safety plan, they were undergoing a search. During that search, obviously a weapon was retrieved, a handgun was retrieved, and several shots were fired, striking those 2 individuals.
So again, we do want to talk about how, you know, we've been seeing parents that have been reuniting there. And this is a tough conversation, because we saw Luis Garcia, who's a student at East High School, was shot in the parking lot at the school recently, died a few weeks later. They just had a rally last week with the students from East High School talking about gun control and legislation. Of course, this coming on the 2-year anniversary of the Boulder King shooting as well. Yeah,
you can imagine a lot of people, not just the people who are part of the East High School community, but Coloradans everywhere. One, Coloradans have really big hearts. They care about this. Yeah. They're hurting right now, especially because we have seen this happen many times over the years here in Colorado. Somebody else who can talk a little bit more about this is our Luis De Leon. He is out at the scene right now. Luis, we have seen a pretty big crowd of parents showing up. It looked like they were giving Chief Ron Thomas and Mayor Hancock a piece of their mind. What are you hearing?
We were not able to hear that exchange. However, you can probably see behind me, over my shoulder anyways, as students continue to exit the high school. We were not able to hear that exchange, but since I last came to you, I was able to catch up with another parent who was waiting for their child. They have a daughter that's a senior at this high school. They actually have 2 other daughters that recently graduated from Denver East High School as well. He says that he has dealt with these lockdowns in the past, but never something to this magnitude until this school year, and he obviously calls it incredibly unnerving as these incidents continue to happen. I also spoke, since I last spoke with you guys, I also spoke to a freshman who just happened to have an off period when this incident occurred inside of the school. She happened to be outside for her off period. She's now waiting for her sister, but she calls it very scary. She says that they've been having assemblies on preventing youth violence and gun violence and things like that. She talked about how she was with that large group of students that went to the Capitol recently to talk about this very issue with lawmakers. And so there's just a lot of emotions from those parents right now, so you can understand the frustration that is coming from parents. I use that word as sort of like calm urgency, a quiet frustration that I have been sensing from a lot of the parents that I've been speaking to. And now, certainly, if from what I'm hearing from you guys, you know, if there's an exchange happening over there, then, you know, it's understandable frustration, obviously, and they recognize that. With regards to this incident itself, Chief Thomas and Superintendent Marrero would not elaborate much on the particular school safety plan that happens student by student with when it comes to these actual pat-downs. Take a listen here for more on that.
All right, I'm not sure if we have that sound there, Luis, but of course we're going to check back in with you once we get more information there on the ground. We want to just give a little bit of an update right now. So earlier we had told you that also people who were living in the area were receiving some shelter-in-place notifications from Denver police. We have gotten word that people are starting to get notifications that that shelter-in-place has been lifted. So a bit of good news right there.
Yeah, so Luis was talking about the pat down there. A little bit more on that. That is an agreement that this student had with the school and able to attend school, to be patted down every single day at school. And when we asked about that type of agreement, Superintendent Dr. Marrero said this is something that is common within schools and school districts. This student had never had a weapon on them at the school. This is part of a behavioral protocol as well. Anusha Roy has been on scene as well, talking to students, seeing students leave. What are you seeing out there now?
Yeah, you know, Corey, every which direction we are looking, we are seeing parents have surrounded the school waiting to reunite with their kids. Parents just waiting with their hands over their mouth, saying they're at a loss for words because of what their kids are going through. And, you know, when the police were giving an update, there were actually several students out here as well. I had a chance to talk to them. They were kind enough to share some thoughts with us who were outside. It was during third period when this first happened, and said they realized there was some kind of commotion, and they look inside the school and there's people running and ducking and hiding, and they realized, okay, there is something really scary happening here. We better check and make sure that we are safe as well. These are students that, I mean, we're talking sophomores and juniors, 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are already a part of the walkout that we've been talking about all morning, trying to make their schools safer, and saying, here we are again wondering, do we have to watch for our safety when we just want to come here and learn? I had a chance to talk with Tyrone Owens. He's an 18-year-old, was a part of the walkout, and he was just crystal clear about what he is hoping for from this city to make going to school safer.
Right now it's kind of going through my mind, like, what can we do? What can the police do to make the school better? Not the school, but the community, other schools, because other schools are going through the same thing that we're going through. So it's not should just be one school talking, it should be all of the schools talking.
Yeah, he was just talking about this united front amongst students to just be heard about, you know, we want to be able to come to school, come to class. He goes, but I don't want to come here and be scared. And he goes, that's where his mind is right now. I was talking to his sister as well, saying, you know, I'm thinking about my friends. I'm trying to connect with my cousins, my other family that's inside of the school. They were saying, we're not going to leave campus until we make sure everyone that we love who is here today is okay. But what they're really looking for is for a change, you know, and to be heard, because they do want to continue their education. And that's the same thing I was hearing from parents who were saying, you know, they have all this momentum, their kids are doing great, and then something like this happens and everything just comes to a screeching halt, and they're scared for their kids, they're tired, they're stressed out. You've been hearing it all morning. People are so frustrated and sad about what happened yet again here today at another school.
Absolutely. Anusha, we want to come back to you to have to hear more about the conversations that you're having with people there on the ground. But right now, we need to get over to 9 News reporter Brianna Fernandez. She is live outside of Denver Health at this time. Brianna, we understand that you see a marked DPS vehicle outside there as well.
Yeah, so we've been here for about an hour, and we did see some marked and unmarked vehicles, some Denver Sheriff's Office and some police officers, as well as DPS marked vehicles. The only vehicle right now is a Sheriff's Office. Now, it is a very quiet scene here outside of Denver Health, and we've been here for about an hour now, and I can confirm with you, because I just spoke to a doctor about 5 minutes ago, that those 2 staff members have been taken here to Denver Health. One is in critical condition. He is in surgery. The other one is in serious condition, but he is speaking. Doctors wouldn't say exactly where these 2 staff members were shot, but I can confirm that they have been taken here. This is a level 1 trauma center right here at Denver Health. That's the only information that the doctor could provide to us, but of course we're going to stay on scene and bring you the latest information. Jordan?
All right, Brianna, thank you very much. If there's any of our crews available on the ground, we'd like to get to them at this time to learn a little bit more about what they're hearing from parents and students. While we do that, though, or while we wait for that to happen, let's go ahead and update anybody who might just be joining us again on the information we have here at hand. We understand that about 9:50 this morning, Denver police got a call that there was a shooting at East High School. We now know that 2 school administrators, both men, were shot by a male student there at the school during a routine safety pat-down that this student had agreed to as part of protocol. Every single day they would show up and get this pat-down. Police said up until today, this student never had a weapon on them. However, during today's pat-down, this student shot those 2 school administrators again, as you just heard Brianna Fernandez mentioning. One of them now in critical condition, in surgery at this time. The other school administrator is in serious condition, but is talking and able to communicate with the police to help their investigation. Now, something, Corey, that we have been talking about that police said was a really big help in this situation is that there were 2 paramedics in that side of the school at the time responding to another situation.
Yeah, a student was having some type of allergic reaction, so paramedics were already on scene for that, so they were able to respond immediately to these 2 staff members who were shot, which would probably be instrumental in how they recover here. And again, we got the update there on the 2 male staff members. That's all the information that we have about them, but we do know that this student did leave the scene after that incident, but they knew who the student was, obviously the name, where they live, and they had a very specific description of what the student was wearing. It was an African-American student with an afro, was wearing a hoodie with an astronaut under it, on it, under 18 years old, so they wouldn't give us a lot of information again, because not only is he a current student, but also he's a juvenile.
Yeah, one person who has been covering situations there at East High School since the last shooting a little more than a month ago is our Courtney Yoon. She's live outside the school once again for us today. Courtney, you've had conversations with students for weeks now about this. Here we are again today. What kind of conversations are y'all having?
Yeah, hey Jordan. Yeah, we spoke with Alasia Sims. She was a senior, is a senior here at East High School. We spoke to her a couple weeks ago when they did their walkout after the death of Luis Garcia, and they marched over to the legislature. And she told me that day that, you know, they're fed up, they're sick and tired of this. It's something that, you know, teenagers shouldn't have to worry about. She told me the legislation that they want to see for gun control is 3-day waiting periods. They want to bump that age from 18 to 21, and they want to see what else the legislature can do for them to make them feel safer in school. I also talked with parents this morning. One of them was David Port. He told me that the risk is too great right now for his student to be in school, and he talks about the mental health of his daughter and just how he's seen it decline over this year. He says he lives close by, luckily gets to work from home, but he's had to run down here to East High School 4 or 5 times now already this school year when there's been a lockdown or a shooting. And he said it's just getting to be too much. The pressure on these kids, even just academically, is enough, and then they have all of this terrible things happening with shootings and seeing their friends and classmates die. David was telling me, you know, the East High School boys basketball team just won the state championship a couple weeks ago, and that was such a high for them, and that it really uplifted their community here. And now they're, you know, back on the roller coaster ride of going back down again, having this shooting here today. Let's listen into what David said earlier.
They're at risk every day, and from my perspective, there's no reason and no justification for them to actually show up at school anymore. The risk is too great.
Stand by. Yeah, and some of the things that David was saying, I asked him, you know, what else can be done? He was telling me that maybe we need to be doing online school again. Maybe, you know, students shouldn't be here at this school. He's just too worried. His daughter said that she hates coming to school. She loves to learn. She wants to learn, but not in an environment like this. And, you know, parents, students, they're kind of raising their hands up in the air. They don't know what else can be done at this point. They're hoping that the legislature can help with gun control. But at this point, it's just really heartbreaking to see what this community is going through.
And Courtney, we could see all the students there just kind of filing out of the school as part of this orderly release after they were held in their third period classrooms during this investigation. You know, one thing is they seem rather calm, like they're just so used to this at this point. And I don't think we understand just how heartbreaking that is for students to know how to respond to this so appropriately and quickly.
Yeah, Jordan, it's really heartbreaking. And like I was telling you earlier today, I'm going to move out of the way so you can see those students coming out. It was eerily quiet here earlier, really calm. There was so much police presence, so many flashing lights, ambulances in front of the school. And it was quiet, it was calm. It was like something that, like you said, they're used to this. They've been through this before. When you look at the faces of these parents, you know, they are anxiously waiting to see their kids. You know, they are worried. Even though David had made contact with his daughter and had been texting with her, his wife had been texting with her, they were still worried. They wanted to know when they could see her, when they could go meet her over there at 17th and Esplanade. You know, they waited, they listened to the press conference. It's just so much anxiety, so much fear, but at the same time, it's really calm because, like you said, they've been through this before, and it's just sad to say that. Elijah Sims, that senior that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, she told me that she's done 4 or 5, you know, multiple school walkouts since she's been at East High School, and the administrators and teachers have always been very supportive of them doing that. But she told me, you know, I'm doing this, I'm walking out today because I don't want to have you know, future students having to be in an environment like this. She wanted to stand up for, you know, future students to have a safer environment, and it's just sad that they can't have one.
Well, and you know, that's great that they're supported as far as their fight for more safety goes, but at the same time what these students say is, I don't want the support, I want the change. I want that to happen at this time already.
Exactly, yeah. They are asking for adults to do their part, you know, for the legislature to pass some laws that will make them safer. It's something that students shouldn't have to be worried about or dealing with or thinking about or even telling the adults to do, but that's what they're doing because they're worried about their safety and they want something to change.
Yeah, and we know those changes can take some time. Courtney, thank you so much, but we also know that effective immediately, they're going to be putting 2 armed officers at East High School every day until the end of the school year. The board is meeting tomorrow night. They're going to discuss how to move forward in terms of safety. Dr. Marrero, the superintendent, said, we feel strongly we shouldn't be here, but here we are, you know, and the mayor talked about how, as a parent as well, he knows the frustration. He's frustrated and angry as well, talking about how we must work together on safety and do more about putting officers inside buildings. Again, so many people have ideas on what it will take to feel safe in schools, and it's this conversation that these young kids are having.
Absolutely, they are. We want to get over to our Mark Salinger. His camera has been focused on the mayor and the police chief talking to parents. Mark, it looked like, you know, the parents understandably very angry and very expressive in these conversations. What are they saying?
Yeah, Jordan, there's a lot of anger, and I'll explain a little bit about why that is. Where we are standing right now is the reunification site for where parents and students are meeting up with each other. I'll step out of the way so that you can see a little bit more. But this intersection at 17th and Esplanade is the exact location where less than a month ago, or right around a month ago, I'm not sure the exact date, there was an East High School student who was shot right in this intersection. Luis Garcia later died at a hospital after being in the hospital for several days. But that is why the anger is so strong right now. Not only are parents dealing with now reuniting with their kids after a school shooting, but this is the second time that they've been here in the past month at this exact intersection waiting for their kids to come outside after a shooting at East High School. So just a couple of minutes ago, we saw the police chief, the Denver police chief, along with the public safety director, coming here to greet parents, and he was talking to them, but there really was more yelling going on than conversation, perhaps saying, do something, we don't want to be in this spot ever again. You can see parents, tearful reunification images as people, as parents who've been waiting here for several hours reunite with their kids, their sons, their daughters, and everybody who goes to East High School after an incredibly scary morning that's becoming far too common. We heard some parents even talking and saying to their kids, "Are you scared? Are you okay?" And I overheard one student say, "We're used to this," and you know, I'll go out on a limb and say that no student should ever have to get used to something like this. Jordan and Corey.
Mark, we just saw a very tearful, emotional reunion behind you. A student came out and hugged her mom, and I think there was a friend that was standing next to her, and the mom's just trying to console them. And that's what we've been seeing, you know, from Sky 9 shots as these students have been released from school. And that's tough to see. And you're seeing it, you were just talking to about it, alluding to it, how tough these conversations are and these, you know, reunifications.
Yeah, these are conversations that are having to happen far too often. Again, just how serious this is this intersection that is now the reunification spot. About a month ago, there was crime scene tape right here, and in the middle of this intersection, there was a car riddled with bullet holes, and an East High School student died in that shooting. And today, we know that 2 more people are injured inside East High School, and parents are just asking, when will this stop? What can be done? What's the solution here? Because this isn't working.
And of course, that's exactly what they're expressing right now to the police chief as well as to the Denver mayor. Of course, we do know that some certain safety protocol is going to be put in place almost immediately, with 2 armed officers going to be there at East High School through the end of the year. Mark, I'm curious if from your vantage point, if you could tell if Mayor Hancock and Police Chief Ron Thomas how they were responding to what these parents were demanding.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the group of people there as Chief Ron Thomas came up to greet parents, and he almost looked to be walking by them at the beginning, and the parents started yelling, "Come talk to us, come talk to us." And that's when he veered over and started talking to the parents. But there's just a whole lot of anger of saying, you know, whatever we are doing right now is not working. This is the 3rd lockdown that, at least the 3rd lockdown that East has been in the past, since the beginning of the year. And I'll move out of the shot one more time so that you can see what's behind me going on. But still, parents are reuniting with their kids, and police officers are surrounding this entire school. Obviously, a ton of police officers absolutely everywhere in this school, as now all of the parents and all of the students start to finally come out. The students were locked inside on lockdown for the last couple of hours, and this happened early this morning, and now it's 12:30 already almost, and they're just now reuniting with their loved ones.
Yeah, going back to the, we were seeing the video that you were having there of the parents and I think a student. They were in a circle and they were talking to the mayor and talking to the Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas, about how frustrated they are. We weren't airing the audio because, Mark, it did look pretty heated.
Oh yeah, it was very heated, and there were parents on all surrounding the police officers there. The head of the Department of Public Safety was also there. Ron Thomas, the chief of Denver Police, was there, and they were basically just telling him, what are the solutions? What can we do here so that we are not in this position once again? I spoke with one parent whose son was inside at East High School today. He works for GRASP, which is a gun violence prevention group that we featured many times on our air here at 9 News, and they do wonderful work in Denver. And his son goes to East High School. He was locked inside. He was on the phone with him as we were speaking with him, waiting for him to come out. And he told him simply, today's your last day at East High School. Like, we aren't going to do this again. This isn't happening anymore. And those are the tough conversations that parents are having right now with their students. Luckily, as far as we know, every student is okay. We're still, of course, thinking about the faculty members who we know are injured today, and hoping for the best for them. But luckily today, today, as far as we know, every student is okay.
Yeah, that's some good news there, Mark. We appreciate you keeping us up to date on that one. Of course, those hard conversations that you hear Mark there talking about, these aren't new. They've been having these conversations, parents with their kids, and given what happened there today, they're far from over at this time. Mark, thank you. We're going to check back in with you throughout the afternoon. We want to get back over to Anusha Roy at this time. She's also live there outside of East High School.
Anusha, you know, real quick, I keep getting emotional when I'm seeing these students come out and go and find their parents. You know, as a mom, that's so hard, and I'm sure that you completely understand that as well.
I mean, this is a worst nightmare, right? You know, I was talking to someone who I happened to be meeting for an interview today, and their daughter goes here, and he had no idea what was happening as the news was breaking, and you saw his face fall, right? And your heart breaks because you get that feeling as a parent. This is the last thing you want your child to go through when they were going to school. It's a Wednesday. That's what it was supposed to be, and it's turned into another emergency. And I have to say, I have to reiterate what all my colleagues are saying, that today there's just been this tense but eerie calmness. And when I had a chance to talk to a couple of students, we're talking sophomores and juniors, I mean, they just sighed. You know, they sighed and they were so resigned, saying, we've been through this before. We know the protocol. We know what's going to happen in the next couple of days before we can come back to class. And the parents who are here, and the parents have also surrounded the school, right? Just waiting to be able to reunite with their kids, saying, we're at a loss for words, you know? Every time this is happening, you know, to their kid, it says their education, their high school experience is coming to a screeching halt. Who is not at a loss for words are the students, who are saying it can't just be the school here. It has to be students across Denver who unite together to say, what are we going to do to make our school safer? They were the same students who were a part of the walkout trying to get lawmakers' attention on how to improve school safety, and they're going to do it again, saying that what they want is a ear from city officials, from Denver police, you know, to all get together, put your heads together and figure out what is happening and how do we make our school safer. You know, one of the students is 18-year-old Tyrone Owens, who I had a chance to talk to, saying he loves learning, he loves class, he loves, you know, the education he's getting here, but he doesn't want to come here and have to watch over his shoulder and be worried about his safety, which is exactly what happened today. He happened to be outside of the school. It was during third period. He said an assembly was about to start when he started seeing people running and ducking and realized, oh, I better check if I'm in a safe spot, and I better check if my sister and my cousins and my family, all the people who were inside this school, if they are okay. And I think that's one of the things that's just really sticking to me, is just that the people who are the most vocal about it are the students who have been through this before and are tired. They just want to come here and learn, and have now become experts at mobilizing and trying to get the city's attention about school safety.
Yeah, Anusha, thank you so much. We do want to get to a statement that Denver Mayor Michael Hancock just put out about the shooting at East High School. Again, we know that he was there today for this press conference. He talked about how this is incredibly frustrating for students, staff, for the community. And I'm going to read you what he said this morning. It says, another act of senseless gun violence rocked the East High School community this morning, and my heart is with each and every student, staff member, and parent. Our schools should be free from violence, period. Parents are angry and frustrated, and they have a right to be. Easy access to guns must be addressed in our country. Denver cannot do this alone. There are common sense protocols at the legislature and in Congress right now, and they must be passed. It's also time to return school resource officers in our schools. Removing them was a mistake, and we must move swiftly to correct it. We're ready to work with DPS, and we all have to step up as a community and be part of the solution.
And that's a really strong part of that statement. We have it pulled up there for you on the screen right now. Again, to reiterate exactly what Corey just said, Mayor Hancock saying it is time to return those SROs to schools. I think it's a big thing to point out that he said removing them was a mistake and that they're going to swiftly act to correct that. If that's going to be something maybe he was even hearing from parents right there. Of course, as we were just talking to Mark Salinger, it was a group of very angry and frustrated parents that were talking to both Mayor Hancock and Chief Thomas. So you have to wonder if any of the sentiments that he shared there in that statement were born out of those conversations.
Right. We know in terms of gun control and legislation that can take a very long time, but we are seeing immediate change right now. 2 armed officers will be at East High School every day until the end of the school year, and the board is actually meeting tomorrow, and they're going to discuss how to move forward in terms of safety.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a conversation that, of course, once we learn more about it, we're going to let you know exactly what was discussed as much as we can learn there. We want to go ahead and update you again about the facts of what we know right now. So Denver police say around 9:50 this morning, they got a call about a shooting at East High School. They say that a student, during a routine safety pat-down to make sure the student didn't have weapons on him, something that he had to go through every single day that he entered the school, that he shot 2 school administrators. It's unclear exactly where he shot them at this time. What we do know is that one of those school administrators is in critical condition in surgery at this time. The other administrator is in serious condition, but is responsive, is talking with police for their investigation at this time. Both of them are at Denver Health. Our Brianna Fernandez is live outside there monitoring the situation, trying to get more information and any updates that we can learn about their progress. We have some VO from our Sky 9 right now, some video showing exactly how big this scene was. And what I got to say is we see this video from earlier. The scene looks quite a bit different than what our live shots were looking like, where all the parents have now gathered. A lot of people as they're picking up their students. You know, we have been also talking to people who live in the area. Initially, they were sent shelter in places by Denver police. Those have since been lifted, they have also told us. But, you know, they're watching these students make their way to their cars. And a text that I got from one of the people who lives in the area said it is sad watching these kids go to their cars. Some are walking silently with their friends. Others are running to their car and getting in as fast as they can. The ones walking silently, it's not even sure, we're not even sure if it's because they're calm, or as you heard our crews there on the ground describing, they're used to this.
Yeah, are they in shock?
Are they in shock?
Yeah. We want to go back to Luis De Leon. He was out there for the press conference that happened when they were talking about this male student and this agreement between the school and the student. Luis, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the school district would not elaborate much on how that process works. And they said it varies from student to student and also from school to school depending on the situation. Real quick before we continue on there, I want to give you an update with the scene here. It is much more quiet around this area now that the parents have shifted over to different parts of the school. We did start to see seemingly more adults exiting the school and actually coming down this area, some walking away very distraught, not wanting to comment just quite yet on how they're feeling right now and everything. We saw Denver police releasing some vehicles this way as well. As for that pat-down system, like I said, Superintendent Marrero as well as Chief Thomas would not really elaborate on that, but many questions are being asked right now for how that particular system works, why there are not officers in particular that were conducting that search on this particular day. Take a listen here for more on that.
Is this particular student actually had a safety plan that was in place where they were to be searched at the beginning of the school day every day? They had been searched previously to today and had never had a weapon on them before. However, today, during that search which took place away from other students, away from other school staff, they did produce that weapon and fire shots.
And it was after that then that they would not really elaborate much more. But as you can see there, that is one particular circumstance that happens to do with the student slash suspect in this case right now.
Luis, you know, this agreement is so interesting, and I know Dr. Marrero was talking about how this is commonplace within school districts and schools, which, you know, we weren't aware of, and the fact that this student had never had a weapon on them at school, but this was part of a behavioral plan. And Luis, we know that that student then left after the shooting.
Yeah, and law enforcement officials seem very confident that they would be able to apprehend the suspect, considering that they do know who's in that person's circle. They know where that person lives. We are still just waiting to hear an update yet on the circumstances surrounding there. But like I said, the scene's a lot more calm now. We can see a couple more students exiting the area around me as well here. So.
All right, Luis, we'll check back in with you a little bit later this afternoon and get the latest update with you. We have received a final update from Denver Public Schools. They say that additional information about what happened there at the school today, about this shooting, is going to be provided to East High School families. That'll happen later today, and that'll come from Principal Walker. It's unclear what means of communication that's going to come through at this time, but that is from Denver Public Schools, saying that all the families of the East High School students will be receiving that additional information, again, from Principal Walker. That's going to come a little bit later today.
Again, the open-ended piece here is the fact that this student, at this point that we know, has not been caught after this shooting this morning and then left the scene. Clearly, they know who this student is, where they live, what he looks like. We know that he is an African-American student that's under 18 years old. He's a current student at East High School, that he has an afro, and he was wearing a hoodie with an astronaut on it. Again, they know where he lives. They know who's in his circle, and they're still looking for that suspect. We have not been given an update on whether that suspect has been found.
We have not, but they did sound pretty confident that they were going to make an arrest. It sounded like it could be coming pretty soon, so we'll have to stay tuned for that one. Again, they seem to have all the information to be able to at least track down where this student may have gone at this time. Again, the condition of the two school administrators who were shot by this student, one is in critical condition in surgery at this time, the other in serious condition, both of them at Denver Health. Our Brianna Fernandez live outside the hospital monitoring the situation there for us, informing us of any updates that may happen there. We are told some good news as far as the suspect that's in serious condition. They are speaking and able to communicate with police to give more insight into what happened and really help their investigation.
Yeah, that victim that's in serious condition, stable but in serious, and be able to give statements to investigators. The other bit of good news here is the fact that there were paramedics already at East High School, already in the building, treating a separate student for an allergic reaction that they were having. So they were able to respond immediately to the two staff members that were shot, which is going to be an integral part in the fact that they were able to get them to the hospital right away.
Absolutely, it will be. We want to get back out to Courtney Yoon right now. Again, she's also live outside of East High School this morning. Courtney, you've been having conversations with parents there, understandably frustrated, scared to send their kids back to school. I'm wondering what those conversations look like when we were talking with Anusha about, switching up the way they do school. If they're going to allow their students to go back, switch to online, what kind of options are they looking at right now, or will they in fact send the kids back to school?
Yeah, hey Jordan, we don't know on the DPS side what the plan is in terms of school here, whether that would be online. I did speak with a parent named David Port who was telling me that, it's too much of a risk right now to send his kid to school here, his daughter here to school. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see the students are still coming out. They have been coming out for like the last hour or so. But yeah, he was making suggestions. He was like, what about online school? We did it during the pandemic because right now he isn't feeling comfortable sending his daughter to school, and his daughter isn't feeling comfortable coming to school either. She was in an assembly, was what he told me, when the shooting happened. His wife was able to make contact with her, and even though they were able to exchange texts and she was able to let them know that she was safe and okay, the look on his face was still so anxious, still scared, even knowing that his daughter's okay, because he's been in this situation multiple times before already, where he said he's had to leave work. He works remotely, thankfully, and is able to come down to East High School to walk here to get his daughter, but it's just something that he doesn't feel like he should be having to do anymore, and every time he has to do it, it just feels like another risk of sending his daughter to school. So he's suggesting maybe there needs to be some kind of alternative plan here, because clearly the environment is not safe for students. Police did mention that this shooting happened in the front of the school in an office area away from other students. But still, it's just, thankfully, no students were injured, but it's just something scary having to walk into school every day, thinking about that. When we spoke with students who did the walkout a couple weeks ago, Alasia Sims, she was telling me, I'm 18 years old. I have friends who are 18 years old, and I know they shouldn't have guns. She wants to see the age, raised up to 21, and also just the mental health impacts on these kids. We're already seeing reports knowing that teens nowadays are dealing with depression and anxiety at record high levels, that we need more resources for mental health, and this is just yet another strain on these students who are worried about safety every day, who are worried about guns, who have been hearing about school shootings pretty much their entire lives, who have been doing school shooting drills their entire lives. That same senior I spoke to during that walkout 2 weeks ago, she says she's done 4 or 5 walkouts since she's been at East High School, and that's too much. That's too many, and that she is doing it because she wants future students to have a safer place to come to school. So yeah, there's a lot of suggestions out there. Parents are rightfully frustrated and angry, worried about their students, and they just want to see some kind of other plan, maybe online schooling, maybe not coming to school. He says it's too much of a risk to send his child here.
Courtney, thank you so much. We really appreciate us giving the latest there from the ground there at East High School. Earlier this morning, we were seeing that parents were confronting Denver Mayor Michael Hancock and Chief of Police Ron Thomas, and it got heated. They were giving him a piece of their mind because they are frustrated. They want answers, and Mark Salinger was there, and he was part of that conversation.
Absolutely. We have him right now. Let's go over to him. And Mark, just as Corey was mentioning, those conversations could get pretty heated. At times, they were demanding for more safety. Were any parents calling for specific action themselves to see that they would like to see?
Yeah, they say, hey, we're not the ones in charge of making sure that our kids go to school in a safe spot, but we need you, the police department, to make sure that they are safe. Like you mentioned, Jordan and Corey, just a couple of minutes ago, there was a circle basically of parents that gathered around Police Chief Ron Thomas, and they were telling him basically, you need to do something. And the reason that there is so much anger today, obviously, is one school shooting is one too many, but this is the second time that East High School has had a shooting inside or right outside of its building in the past month or so. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a shooting at the intersection that I am standing at right now, in which one East High School student was killed. Luis Garcia lost his life in a shooting just a couple of days after he was shot in his car right here. That intersection, that exact same intersection, of course, this afternoon or this morning, just a couple of minutes ago, was the spot where everybody gathered and had that confrontation with Police Chief Ron Thomas. This is the exact intersection. It's hard to overstate that an East High School student lost their life just a couple of weeks ago, and now it is a reunification area for parents to meet up with their kids after what we're told are 2 faculty members were shot inside of East High School. So it's not hard to understand why there is so much anger. The solutions, on the other hand, are harder to come up with. If there was a solution, that would be harder to figure out. But right now, people are just angry and saying, let's fix this right now. Jordan and Corey.
There's nothing you can do. You're nervous, you're anxious, you just want to see your kids' faces and make sure they're okay. And pray there's no lasting effects,
So you heard some of those parents right there saying that something needs to be done, something needs to change right now, because they don't want to be in this position getting text messages from their kids saying we're on lockdown once again. I was talking to a father who said his son was inside and texting him, hey, we're on lockdown once again. And he said to himself, well, it's Wednesday, of course you're on lockdown. Like, it's that often that it seems to be happening right now, and East High School has a real problem with violence right now that needs to be fixed.
Exactly what that person said, Mark, speaks volumes to what we have seen there at East High School. But we also have parents, emailing us saying this isn't just an East High School problem. They're seeing this in schools, not just here in Colorado, but across the country. They're calling for safety everywhere. And I think exactly what you just said really underscores that. Something else to discuss here is the fact that those conversations, those really hard conversations that the parents were having with both Mayor Hancock and Chief Ron Thomas, they spurred kind of a statement from Mayor Hancock, and I'm curious to see if he took any of their ideas and what they were saying and put it into the statement. We have it right here to pull up on the screen.
Yeah, so we're going to pull it up so you can see it as well. He tweeted this out about 25 minutes ago. It says, another act of senseless gun violence rocked the East High School community this morning. And my heart is with each and every student, staff member, and parent. Our schools should be free from violence, period. Parents are angry and frustrated, and they have a right to be. Easy access to guns must be addressed in our country. Denver cannot do this alone. There are common sense proposals at the legislature and in Congress right now. They must be passed. This next part I find very eye-opening. It says it's also time to return school resource officers in our schools. Removing them was a mistake, and we must move swiftly to correct it. We're ready to work with DPS, and we will have to step up as a community and be part of the solution. Mark was talking about how, this meeting happened between the mayor and the chief and parents there, and that kind of happened naturally because they were just walking by the crowd, and the parents stopped them and demanded to talk to them. They want answers. And we're also hearing now, it sounds like, from Governor Polis. I'm trying to pull up a statement from him at this time. His office has put it out. I'm just going to read it to you in full. We're working to get it on the screen for you. But in the meantime, he says, quote, "We are closely monitoring this tragic situation. We know that the 2 victims have been hospitalized, and we pray for their health and swift recovery. Our students should and must be able to attend school without fear for their safety. Their parents deserve the peace of mind that their children are safe in classrooms, and teachers should be able to work safely and without harm. We also reflect that today is the anniversary of the Boulder King super shooting. We appreciate the quick action taken by East High School faculty and staff to secure the school and make sure students were safe, and that this is an ongoing situation, and state troopers and Colorado Bureau of Investigations are supporting local law enforcement in responding to this tragedy." And I'm glad that he brought up the fact that this is 2 years to the day since a shooter walked into the King Supers there in Boulder, the Table Mesa King Supers, and sadly killed 10 people. Not only is it happening on this day specifically, this is only a little more than a month since a student was shot and killed outside of East High School. That's what's so sad about this conversation, right? It continues to happen. We were covering that Boulder King Supers 2-year this morning. Then we were talking about East High School and Luis Garcia, the student who was shot there just within the last month. And then, as Mark was saying, I think it was a parent that said it's a Wednesday, so of course this happened, and that is just eye-opening, and clearly change needs to happen. And that's exactly what we've heard from not only the parents but the students themselves. You may remember a little more than a week ago there was a walkout of East High School where the students, and a lot of them, it was a really big presence, walked from East High School to the state capitol demanding for that change. And they weren't just calling for a vague kind of change. They were calling for very special instruction. They were calling for everything from raising the age to being able to buy a gun to 21 years old, having a 3-day waiting period, more comprehensive background checks. These students knew exactly what they were talking about. And again, as we have to continue to echo the sentiment, these are teens. They should be, this is exactly what we were talking about. This is that walkout from East High School to the Capitol, I believe just within the past couple of weeks. These were the students who said enough is enough, but here we are again today. We were curious how much they knew about gun control and legislation, how much, they had maybe researched what they wanted to see in their schools to feel safe. Courtney Yoon was out there covering this rally that morning. She asked them, what do you want to see? The student says, I want to see gun control and legislation. She said, what exactly do you want to see? And they knew. They had exactly the points that they wanted to see, not only in their community when it comes, to state legislation, but also what they wanted to see within their classrooms. Yeah, and I think the sad part about this, and we're going to hear the sentiment expressed from the conversations that our Anusha Roy is having as well. Let's go ahead and bring her into this conversation at this time. Anusha, exactly what Corey was saying. The sad part is, the parents don't send their kids to school to have that kind of a knowledge. They send their kids to school expecting, a standard education, being able to talk about after-school activities, maybe being excited for the prom, graduation, things like that, not knowing specifically that legislation should be passed or calling on lawmakers to keep them safe in school.
And yet, when I was talking, to the parents who are out here today, they were shocked. They were so sad for what their kids keep going through. But everybody knows the protocol at this point. And I mean, that in itself is just so telling. You know, I saw a mom just standing there with her hand over her mouth. You know, she wasn't ready to talk, saying, I'm at a loss for words, you know, because this brings, you know, my kids' high school experience to a screeching halt every time that an emergency like this happens, and it's happening back to back to back. You know, and when I was talking to students as well, who just like us were waiting for updates from Denver police because they wanted to make sure that their friends and their family and everyone were okay who were inside of the school, they said, we've been a part of the walkouts that you were talking about. We've been asking for city officials and to get people's attention to make safety a higher priority, to make some kind of change so that they can just come here and focus on all the things you just talked about, Jordan, right? The things of high school and learning, and not about what is school safety and does your day end with a lockdown and then being sent home. I've been thinking a lot about a conversation I just had with Denver police, I think it was in the last couple of weeks, where they are waiting on over $1 million worth of grants to be able to put it out to different nonprofits, specifically to talk about preventing violence that is impacting youth, you know, and going at it at every different angle of providing more counseling, more behavioral health therapists, you know, providing more wraparound services for kids and their families. And there are all of these efforts that you're hearing and seeing across the city, but I mean, what you're hearing from the parents and the students today is it's not enough. They are frustrated and they're understandably angry about the fact that every time, that so many times now, they have come to school and it has ended like this, and they are really hoping, they're just really hoping for change at this point.
Yeah, you know, Anusha, you and I have had this conversation. All three of us were students whenever Columbine happened. And we saw protocol change after that day where lock and secure drills became normal. And you and I have had that conversation where it was sad how used to just doing those drills we were, that they didn't seem like anything scary. This is a whole new level, though, for students, for them to not just be used to those drills, but know how to leave a building when this actually happens.
You know, and I think one of the things that really stood out to me today when I was talking to some of the students was just like, I asked them about today and they just sighed and they were so resigned at what was happening. And yes, they were scared, but they also knew exactly what the next couple of days were going to be like, you know, that it was going to be a bit before they'd be allowed back, you know, to school. And the fact that they just feel a little bit like they're not being heard, you know, and I don't know, it was just so heartbreaking to hear 16, 17, 18-year-olds saying, we want to come back to class, we do, but I don't want to come back if I'm worried about what my safety is like.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting, Anusha, as Jordan was just talking about, us having these conversations about drills, right? And at East High School, they're not even drills, they're actually happening. But, you know, as a mom, I get emails from my kids' school saying, you know, we had a lockdown drill today, and it doesn't even faze me anymore because that is just part of life.
Yeah, and I think that is something that I heard over and over again today, is that this has become routine. And I remember what you're talking about, where it was so shocking that these were a part of our routine drills that we were practicing, and it seemed like, whoa, what is this? But now it's just, it is a part of their routine, and they know exactly what to do. I mean, I think you've been hearing throughout the morning kind of this tense but eerie calmness, even as I was watching, you know, students leaving the school a little while ago to reunite with their parents, or even looking at the parents, you know, surrounding the school, waiting to reunite with their children. And it was like it was just an eerie, tense calmness, and it's because they have been through this before.
Well, Anusha, we appreciate the insight into what you're seeing out there and what people are saying in the conversations that are happening between not only parents but also among students as well. We're going to check back in with you here throughout the afternoon. Right now, we want to get over to our Luis De Leon. He was our first crew, part of our first crew to arrive there on the scene. Luis, at this time, since you got there to now, what have you seen change? What are you seeing now? What's the sense you're getting?
It has been a complete 360 as far as the amount of intensity on the scene here just off of Colfax and Esplanade. Police officers are still blocking both entrances into the turnaround area that I'm standing in now, as we see some cars begin to leave the area here as well. And so what we were just speaking to a gentleman here who said that he graduated from Denver East High School in 2001. He actually has friends that are parents of students here. He heard what happened, wanted to offer up any rides if needed, so he came over here with his car there to do just that. He was expressing the same thing that many of the other parents said. Myself, Courtney Yoon, and Anusha Roy have been speaking with today, expressing the need for guidance, more resources, and at sometimes other parents have been saying that that's not enough as well. We've been reporting with many different nonprofits throughout the Denver metro area that are advocates for youth violence prevention. We've seen the different initiatives taken by students to get over to the state capitol and call for change and things like that. But as far as the scene here right now, those are the conversations that have been happening here and there. Just a much more calm scene now, as investigators are still on scene here. Just a lot of the students now presumably have been released from school in that controlled release. So just not too much action anymore happening here where we're standing right now, but we'll continue to bring you the latest.
All right, Luis, we appreciate that. Thank you. Let's get back over to Mark Salinger right now. We want to talk to him a little bit more about this conversation between the parents as well as Mayor Hancock and Chief Thomas there. Mark, we got a note from the mayor's office that said the mayor and the chief chose to walk over to the area and speak to these parents, but you kind of described it differently, that it was actually the parents who stopped the chief and the Thomas to address them.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, so I can't be sure, which way it went. But what we can tell you is that the police chief, Ron Thomas, was surrounded by parents that were understandably very angry at what is happening here at East High School. This is the second time within the past month or so that there has been a shooting in or around East High School. In fact, the intersection that I am standing on right now, where there was the reunification of parents with their students, is the exact same intersection in which an East High School student, Luis Garcia, was shot and killed just a couple of weeks ago. And that is where all this anger is stemming from. Of course, one school shooting is one too many, but now two within the past couple of weeks, or two shootings involving East High School in and around its campus, is far too much. I want to show you video of what that conversation and confrontation looked like just a couple of minutes ago, in which you see families and parents gathering around the police chief, telling him, what are you going to do? Help us find a solution. Help us do something. They said our students, our kids should not have to go to school scared that there will be another shooting, that they will be, targets of gun violence. Of course, East High School, Corey and Jordan, as you've mentioned throughout the morning, East High School students walked out just a couple of weeks ago from their classrooms and marched to the state capitol. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of students that marched, all wearing red, their East High School colors, demanding gun violence change, demanding change for gun violence to lawmakers at the state legislature. This is exactly what they were trying to say. We do not want to happen again. And of course, just a couple of weeks later today, there are parents, there are students here that are asking those same questions. How can we find these solutions?
All right, Mark, thank you so much. We do want to get to a new tweet from Representative Diana DeGette. She just tweeted out, we can't continue to live like this. We have to do more to protect our schools and community from gun violence. We have to come together to prevent these tragedies from occurring and curb the scourge of gun violence that's devastating our communities. Enough is enough. We also have a few more here. This one is from Governor Jared Polis.
Yeah, he says, quote, we are closely monitoring this tragic situation. We know that the two victims have been hospitalized, and we pray for their health and swift recovery. Our students should and must be able to attend school without fear for their safety. Their parents deserve the peace of mind that their children are safe in classrooms, and teachers should be able to work safely and without harm. We also reflect that today is the anniversary of the Boulder King Super shooting. We appreciate that the quick action taken by East High School faculty and staff to secure the school and make sure students were safe, and this is an ongoing situation. And state troopers and the Colorado Bureau of Investigations are supporting local law enforcement in responding to this tragedy. We've also gotten a statement from Mayor Hancock as well.
He says another act of senseless gun violence rocked the East High School community this morning, and my heart is with each and every student, staff member, and parent. Our schools should be free from violence, period. Parents are angry and frustrated, and they have a right to be. Easy access to guns must be addressed in our country. Denver cannot do this alone. There are common sense protocols at the legislature and in Congress right now, and they must be passed. It's also time to return school resource officers in our schools. Removing them was a mistake, and we must move swiftly to correct it. We're ready to work with DPS, and we will have to step up as a community and be part of the solution.
And I think that's really interesting there that he highlighted that removing SROs was a mistake, and there has to be swift action to correct that, because that does go along with what he said in that press conference, where he said clearly today proves that more needs to be done regarding safety. Of course, we did get an update from Chief Thomas saying that they would be putting 2 armed officers in the school for the rest of the school year. But of course, parents are saying they want even more.
As we wrap up this show right now, of course, we're going to have more and the very latest on 9 News at 4 o'clock, but we do want to give you an update. We do know again that 2 staff were shot this morning. The call came in at 9:50. There was a male student under 18, a current student at East High School, who was part of some type of agreement with the school to be patted down every day at school for weapons. That's when they found a weapon. This suspect, the shooting happened. There were 2 staff members that were shot. One is in critical condition and was in surgery at last check. The other one was in serious condition but stable and was able to talk and give statements to investigators.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that both Mayor Hancock and Chief Thomas had mentioned in that presser was that something that really helped out was there were 2 paramedics in the school at the time. They were addressing a different situation with a student having an allergic reaction to something. And so they were able to assist almost immediately. They said other crews arrived very quickly too, and that's going to play a really big role in the 2 administrators' recovery.
Some of the video that we were seeing of the students coming out of the school and finding their parents was hard. It was so heartbreaking. Of course, our hearts go out to the community, to the students, to the parents that unfortunately are dealing with this tragedy again.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to continue to have coverage on this throughout the day across the networks of 9 News as well as on 9news.com. We'll now return you to regular programming.